Let's see if that's any better. See if it's any better, guys. Do the Bill Gates three-fingered salute. Control Alt Delete. Reboot. Yeah. Let's see if it's any better. Guess you guys are gonna have to let me know. There's nothing else streaming in the house. I know that. It's me, myself, and I. So, unless that dog's got on the iPad again, I don't know about that. I'm down to zero. Maybe it's not any good. Let's see what it's looking like, gang. Okay, got two people on. Yeah, looks like there's no. I don't see any visible stutters now. Hello again, Ramiro. Any better this time, Ramiro? Good. Okay. Thanks, Evan. Yeah, just I was doing a lot of things over the last couple days, and probably just needed to reboot and get all my temp files cleaned out and get things moving again. Sorry about that. Note to self: reboot before you go live, just in case. You get so used to these things working, you get a little bit complacent over time. So we had one of our guys, Nick, said he was in a car accident and totaled his car. I hope he's okay. I think he is okay, but that's a bummer. So hope he comes out fair, at least with the vehicle. That's a heck of a time to be trying to buy a vehicle and negotiate. Just remember what you had should be worth more than it's been for the most part, unless it was a clunker or something, I guess. So, yeah, any feedback on, anybody pick up the Animals remix, Pink Floyd, or see the announcements on the Steely Dan? Interesting announcements coming out from two different companies. A dual approach to reintroducing them 50 years later. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, how can the average person afford that? Well, yeah, it's up there. It's up there. Now the question is, what's the delta in sound between the $30 universal same master, but then put on digital file, high res file, and pressed at a pressing plant that maybe is not going to be as high a quality, or the vinyl not as high a quality. What's the difference? Is it $120 per album worth the difference? I mean, that's always fundamentally what the question comes to. I mean, I remember when I bought my first UHQR back in '82. I think it was. I bought Crime of the Century by Mo Fidelity, which MFSL at the time. I bought Dark Side of the Moon, and those were $50 a pop. And the standard album was like $17. So it was about a 3x factor, which is about what the factor is today. And in in the inflationary, taking into consider inflation, it's not really far off. But you're right. I mean, it's not. Audiophile records are not, for the average person who really goes to the record store and buys used records or maybe buys a new one occasionally. They won't spend $150 in two or three visits usually, let alone on one album. You know, thanks Nova. Yeah, so I mean, you're right. It's a niche. It's I mean, I can sit here and tell you honestly when I because I stepped back and kind of looked at what's involved in manufacturing that product from, the end product you get in your hands all the way upstream to when, they first start investigating whether they can, get those tapes and get that arrangement, get that licensing, get that mastering engineer, the research. I mean, there's hours, there's a lot of time invested. I think, I mean, there's a good example, right? Chad puts out his video and recorded it, and he says, "Hey, can't buy a thrill. First release October 28th," and they have to put a note on top says, "No, November 4th." Why? Well, my guess is Universal's releasing theirs on November 4th, and they're not going to let Chad trump them. Not a political statement here. That's an actual word. He's not going to let Chad get out ahead of them in releasing it. It's a choreography, and Chad is not owning that the timeline. It gives him another week, I guess, in that regard. But my point is, you can see they had to really um, they just there's a lot of moving parts. There's no other way to put it. I mean, I witnessed some of those moving parts when I was there, honestly, and I heard, there were some important calls going on about that, and the whole idea of making sure they were very transparent about the mastering methodologies and what was involved, and that was very top of mind, top of discussion going on. And at the time, I didn't realize that Universal was going to be doing this a coincident release with the $30 record, which was going to be the same master file, but then put on a digital high res and then mastered to vinyl for that off of Bernie Grundman's original prep file to master onto vinyl. So it's and I'll use this word lightly, don't get offended if you're a digital person. I'm a digital person too in a way, but if it was devalued, or it had, it wasn't as pristine as the true analog, and so it warranted then, this step down in price. The bigger problem with that pressing, in my opinion, isn't the digital, it's the fact that they've got this other plant doing it up in Canada that's part of I think QZ out of Czechoslovakia, and they've had a pretty bad reputation. So I don't know what the pressing is going to be like. So, even if the digital file's really good and the mastering the vinyl off of it is decent, that's not being done by Bernie, by the way. But even if it's decent, if the noise floor is too high or the vinyl quality isn't great, then then the enjoyment's going to be reduced quite a bit. So for me, it was a matter of picking which albums I really like in that series, and doing the high end on those only for me. Um, yeah, the Vinyl Frenzy, I don't know if it'll be as popular as it is today. I mean, nobody probably would have predicted 10 years ago it was going to be as popular as it is now. I can tell you everything has a floor and a ceiling in terms of cost, and you know, uh, it's getting a little dangerous, I guess I'm going to say, that they're starting to push an envelope. I mean, 2 months ago, Universal came out with a list, and they like moved all the Beatles re-releases from $24.99 to $34.99, for example. And so, that's a fairly decent bump. That's 35% or so. So, there's a point at which, people really start making these assessments, and it may just make people think more about what they buy, and be more discreet, I think, is what will happen. Disposable income. How much disposable income is there? If inflation chews away your disposable income, then then the story writes itself. We That's the thing. I mean, I would hope nobody's taking food out of their kids' mouths in order to buy records. That's for sure. But when you come to disposable income, how much of it are you going to have left if you're paying 25% more for gas, 40% more for eggs? Your mortgage interest is twice what it used to be. I mean, if you have a variable rate mortgage, I mean, those are going to be going up. I mean, a lot of people do get variable rate mortgages. With the low mortgage rate we've had lately in the last 5 years before all this happened, that wasn't smart, in my opinion. It was better to lock low. But yeah, it all adds up. It all makes up the but if wages go up again, I mean, the problem is wages go up, but then the costs go up. I mean, you're paying kids at SeaWorld, $18 an hour, and now parking's $40 instead of 22. Got to pay for it somehow. It's not gonna come out of the profits toward the shareholders. That's for sure. That isn't the way that works. So I just think that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, I get you guys in terms of what it costs. You know, the MoFi, the MoFi one steps are looking like a pretty good deal right now at 125. And I know that the Eagles ones sound amazing. Um, Yeah, thanks, Evan. Yeah, I didn't give up on vinyl. There wasn't a lot of it to buy for a long time, that's for sure. I paused, I guess, like a lot of people paused, but I never. Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, it's like this Steely Dan's a quad, and I've got a quad receiver in that, but I mean, just to be able to have a quadraphonic version of this album. This album was hard to come by generally, right? And to have a quad version of it, the mix is a little different. And it's just, it's a part of history, really, when I think about it. Just like I've got a beta tape player. I got a beta tapes and a beta Sony Betamax. So, if the Smithsonian ever needs any backup stuff, they can come here. But, yeah, your car loan. Okay, your car loan's going to be a new expense. Yeah, yeah. This is the gent that had the accident there to the front, and now I'm upside down. Wow. Yeah, yeah. Some days it's like if you wouldn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any, right? Um, do you enjoy having a show? I do enjoy this a lot, because it's small and it's comfortable. Um, I I wish I had more time to do more videos. It takes a little bit of work, to edit and to get it right. And I'm a wee bit of a perfectionist. I'm a little ADA in that regard. So I'm learning as I go, of course. But it really helps me a lot when people ask questions, when they have topics, because for me, this is about trying to educate people. And again, I go back to what the Wax was doing today. He was trying to educate people on other ways to know to watch for prices and how they, to monitor them and to know when to pull the trigger on something. And that's smart and frugal, and it makes a lot of sense. Um, I guess I'm sometimes got the sense it's kind of like you're always holding back. You're always waiting for that next best deal kind of thing, and you kind of sit there, and the paralysis of analysis kind of thing goes on. But I think, yeah, I think, yeah, for me, those kind of bigger shows, they go all over the place, and I'd like to be more engaged, and I feel like I'm the new kid on the block, and and then you get into situations like today or when Wax and I in the past, and it's kind of like that, you want to watch what you say. Then it starts to get, a little bit, and and I hear things on there sometimes, and I think there was a. Let me give you an example. If any of you guys were watching, so there was a comment made about how difficult the albums were for Steely Dan to make, and I think the comment he made was they were difficult. And what he meant, what he's really describing, is that Fagan and Becker were perfectionists, and the musicians they had and the sessions, and if you know, you go look, there's a documentary on making Asia, and these guys were relentless in their attainment. And then when you listen to the records, not don't kind of listen to them for even if they sound poppy. Don't listen to the musicianship and the arrangement and the tightness and the, I mean, just it's just it's there. It's so rich, and that really was the benefit of their being so anal. But I kind of took a little bit, and I kept I just didn't say anything. But it was kind of like, those guys were difficult, and I'm thinking, well, they were trying to get the best product they could out. It's like Chad. I mean, Chad's got stacks of test pressings there that he's trying to get the best sound. That, I mean, I sat in that chair and listened to those monitors and A-B'd records right there with him. And I know what that's like when I do it at home. But I mean, his is even a better setup, of course. But that's the art of it. That's really what's important about it. So I mean, if nobody's a perfectionist about it, what are you gonna have happen, right? I mean, and the thing about it is the internet's really kind of weird, I guess I'll say, for lack of a better term. Um, and I'm trying to find the post here. I'm not sure if I'll see it or not, but I did a post today, and it was I thought it was I thought it was innocent. And I don't even remember where I put it, but it was basically, I made a kind of a, and I'll do this, I'll play with words and things like that. And it was on the back of Katie Lied, the album Katie Lied by Steely Dan. They give a very detailed explanation of all the equipment they used in making the record and the cutter that was used for doing the mastering, and what tape machine was. I mean, they give all the detail. And I made a comment, well, Katie didn't lie on this and was very transparent about the process. And I said, I wish, all musicians would do this, for their product. Now, this is not on the mastering end, this is on the recording end. And so they started saying, well, you're bashing labels again, quit bashing labels. And it's like, I wasn't talking about the label. I really wasn't. I mean, I know the word transparency somehow gets MoFi automatically, but I was talking about that the musicians were transparent about what they use, because I've been trying to make the point, and I think I've said it on this show. There's two sides to what happens. There's the once it's on 2-track, all the work that goes into getting it on that 2-track that then goes down to get mastered for vinyl. So everything happens up front. It's like, that's why the Two Against Nature from Steely Dan had a digital step for mixing. Wasn't recorded digitally, it was recorded analog. But when they mixed it to digital, and then they brought it back to analog. Okay. So it still was on analog, but at the end of the day, it had that interruption through a digital means. And that was why Chad brought it up. So I just feel like no matter what you say, somebody's going to find a way to make an issue out of it or accuse you of whatever. And, maybe that's what Wax felt about what I was saying. I don't know. It's kind of crazy that way. So, Gary Katz, yeah, really. Um, yeah, the audiophile labels were, yeah, they were. You could pick up some deals, and I don't know if it was with COVID really, or what really, brought that out, that, all of a sudden, it just germinated. I guess people had a lot of time on their hands. People had excess cash on their hands. They were getting handouts and that, and a lot of people, maybe were still getting paid. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying it was an odd period, and it created a lot of different market demands in positive and negative ways. Um, yeah, and I noticed lately in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, there'll be MoFi stuff that was up for repress that'll come available. And no sooner it becomes available, somebody posts it, and, within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's gone. Now, I don't know how many they had, if they had 12 or they had 200, or I don't know. But my point is, the demand is still there. People are still going after it. So I don't see the appetite on that end changing. What I do see is some people that had pre-ordered one steps, including myself, have gone back and reevaluated that. Part of the reason is, will it hold its value in the market or whatever? I don't know. I thought, I'm not a huge Van Halen fan. I ordered them because I wanted to kind of stay in the series and go, have those. And if I could sell them and make a few bucks, nothing huge, but just, then that was great, because a lot of people couldn't buy them up front. And so, but I said, no, I really I don't even want to take space up for them, So, but the Eagles, yeah, stay with that. Michael Jackson Thriller, yeah, I just have to, for comparisons purposes, right? That's it. Relatively new to acoustic sounds quality, right? But with the UHQR, should you ultras? I will tell you this: every record you get should be cleaned first. It doesn't matter. Uh, New ones are almost dirtier because they come out of a manufacturing process. I mean, the one you buy used, it could have been well cared for and cleaned and be fairly clean. But the proof's in the pudding. Take whatever your cleaning method is, and then take a new record and clean it, and you'll see the debris that comes out of it. So it's yeah, Harry, I'm in the same boat with you, buddy. Exactly. The Eagles sound amazing. I thought I ordered one of these nights. I didn't. I've got to pull the trigger on that one. I love that album. So I was glad to see you accolading it, because that album needs to sound good. I mean, it has a lot there, but I haven't really been satisfied with some of the presses I've heard of it. So yeah, every record you got to clean them. I mean, it's counterintuitive in some ways. You think about it, but then when you realize, what these records go through, the environment they're in, and they sit there, when they're made, and they stack in fives or whatever their process is, and there's stuff in the air. I mean, it's not like a, well controlled, air controlled kind of environment. It's not that kind of thing at all, at all. It's possible retailers might be getting a better price, hence sell out of MoFi. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know anything about whether they're doing anything on the back end to promote themselves or whatever. I don't know. I know they probably need every dollar for their lawyers they can get. I think that's probably true. No doubt. Yeah, they don't charge until they ship, and I think your shipping is based on, the 1367 or whatever for all of it. So yeah, I didn't order all seven. All seven don't hit me equally. I may amend those. I amended one already. I added Gaucho. I don't know why I missed it, to be honest with you, but you can just call them and amend, add to an order if as long as it's before the first one drops, which is November 4th, by the way, not October 28th, like Chad had first mentioned. So they changed some dates on him too. It's a lot of moving parts. Harry's music room, guys. If you're not subbed there, please do. Harry's really does a nice job on his, straight to the point kind of videos. Had a nice one tonight about a nice little light to get for $14 on Amazon. Just helpful kind of stuff. I enjoy that. It's not real heady, but I loved your list, Harry, of albums you wouldn't get rid of. And I pulled out my Tommy James and the Shondells after I saw yours and listened to it twice. I said, forgot, I love that album, but just hadn't played it in a while. And but see, there's an example. I got duplicates. I got like 4 of those. I'm like, what am I doing here? I really need to weed out these. And maybe that's what I should look at doing is, I was part of a group where I did some auctions and things, but, to share the love, to get these albums out there, to, well cared for albums to people who are trying to start a collection. I think that's a good thing. But yeah, Harry's channel is really, what I like about Harry's channel is it's kind of mellow, it's steady, it's not You know what I mean? He's not, he's just laying it out there very, very, I feel like I'm always talking 90 miles an hour, and Harry's kind of just nice and soft paced. And hey, when are you going to see Roger Waters? Is that tonight or is that tomorrow night, Harry? I know you said you were going. In for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you this, the Steely Dan's, I mean, if you like it tomorrow, okay. If you like, like I said, find one, if you like their stuff, I mean, what you like of it, it's, see that music and the way it was recorded, and the detail and effort that Fagan Becker went through to with the musicians to really perfect the sounds that they got. That's audiophile worthy. That's, to me, see, that's where, I know a lot of people say, why don't they put this on, high end? Why don't they? And it's like, they're recorded so lacklusterly. It's kind of like, what are you going to get out of it? But this kind of stuff, this is like precision, to me. And, it's uh, I think that's where you get, it's like the Eagles. And Harry, you could tell me if you agree with me, but the Eagles that I've listened to, I hear sounds pulled out of there from the voices and some of the, like the banjo and the guitars. And I just hear things I really hadn't heard before. And they're just so, they're pronounced and they're present. And in the other versions, they're kind of just, I say, muddled, or they're lost, I guess would be the better word to say. They're there, but to really hear them, you got to kind of think about it and go to hear them, because then after you hear the one step, if you go back to those, you're kind of straining to hear them. You're kind of like, I know they're there because I just heard them on the one step. And it's like, where the hell are they? And I have the same experience with multi-channel SACD, God forbid, right? But I mean, that's the one nice thing about multi-channel SACDs, or multi-channel vinyl even, is it allows that breaking out. You're moving closer to the X amount of tracks in the original mix, whether it's 4, 8, 16, 32, whatever, but you're moving toward that and getting more distinction. And that's where, for me, that's why engineering is so interesting to me, because you blend all those sounds together. By the time we hear them, you got 32 different tracks laid into two. That's a lot of noise. I mean, that's a lot of stuff going on, right? They only charge as they deliver, so you will be charged one at a time. Yeah, it's exactly. Now, what's ironic, I think Music Direct does it that way, but MoFi charges you immediately. I believe that's true. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I think MoFi charges you immediately whether or not it's in stock. Music Direct does not. So, when did digital start creeping into vinyl mastering? The first album introduced digital was Ry Cooder's Bop Till You Drop on Warner Brothers Records in 1979. And I bought it because of that very reason. The only reason I bought it, the only Ry Cooder I have, because it was novelty. It was like, this is the first album using digital. Because back then it was like, ooh, digital, great, love it, going to be better. Not, you know, it was just the cool thing on the block. Little did we know that digital of then was not really that great comparatively, especially with what we can do now. So, yeah, they have to charge it when, yeah, and different states have different laws, and in Kansas, I don't think you can charge immediately. I think that's what I understand. So you're right, it is. But the other thing is timing, guys. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I think if you buy it from Acoustic Sounds and you buy it early like this, you're going to get it. You're going to be you're going to get an early one of the earlier shipments. I'll say shipments. I'm not going to say numbers because we went in that, but you'll definitely, because you know Mike at the In Groove and these third party retailers aren't going to get the first blocks off. They're not. I mean, Chad's taking care of his customers first. I mean, he runs a retail store. Acoustic Sounds is a retail store, whole and whole, and everybody else is a distributor that wants a wholesale price. Well, Chad would rather sell it direct, to be honest. So I mean, that's the thing about those to me that To me, if I want to get yeah, because Mike does a great job packaging at the In Group. I mean, I buy a lot of stuff from them, so I mean, I got nothing against buying stuff from them whatsoever. But if I was going to do a pre-order against somebody like Analog Productions when it's something they make, uh, I I don't I don't see the wisdom in that, frankly. But that's just me. I could be wrong. I mean, I'll buy stuff from Mike all day long, though. I mean, that's not an indictment of him. It's a matter of the way the process flows. And again, you get charged when you make the order in that case. Yeah, availability is always. Take care, Harry. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate dropping by. Always good to have you. Yeah, availability is a big issue. I mean, the president of Speaker's Corner, Kai Seaman, said, he'll put out 30 requests and he might get two. He might get two. So I mean, putting them out there, putting requests out there. I mean, you can do it all day long, but you know, you got to have developed relationships in the industry. That really is a critical thing. I mean, if you think for 1 minute Donald Fagen would have let this, get out and be done by just anybody, you're sorely kidding yourself. Just as anal as he was about recording it, he's going to be about how it gets out there in the general public to be consumed. So, those guys, the guys that are serious about their music, the Neil Youngs, and who these people are. They're in the midst of these things. You know, there's some high powered people involved in these decisions and these inputs and how it goes and how it's choreographed to get out and how it's choreographed to do the releases. This is a pretty unique. Think about this. This one's pretty unique. I mean, I think they're doing it maybe with Thriller too now. But choreographing, the standard label, putting it out in one way, and then the high end putting it out in another. This is kind of a new kind of thing. So you've seen Chad's stuff cheaper on it. Well, yeah, you may have. I mean, hey, guys, Amazon will work at a loss and never look back. All right, that's they will do that. Now, I will tell you, it's it's uh, it's a roll the dice how they're going to pack it, how it's going to show up. I mean, that I can just tell you from personal experience. So, uh, you know, uh, if I'm going to invest that much money in something, I want to make sure that I've got that I've got the best possible chance of getting it sent properly. And and Amazon's got great return policies, and yep, I know all those things, and I just there's just some things with Amazon I just won't. Uh, I won't do for the love of money. Because I just have been disappointed too many times with it. But hey, yeah, digital is definitely is going to be kind of the bread and butter, kind of thing because it's so versatile and flexible and this is a niche industry a bit. It's there for the and so what's going to happen as we go down the road, the question is, if you look at the demographic of who's buying this stuff. I mean, if I look at the demographic of who visits my site and who watches my videos, which is, it's an indicator of things when I look at different analytics. For example, audience. Okay. So audience, 20% of my audience is over 65 years old or 65 or older, like myself. I just turned 65. 34% is 55 to 64, and 32% is 45 to 54. The other 13% is before that. So, and 25 to 34 years, I got 2%, and only 11.7% of 35 to 44. And it's 99.7 male, right? So, I mean, that's that's what it is. That's the reality. So the issue is, will this have an audience that isn't just dying off? I mean, that's the real question at the end of the day. When you get on fixed income, I mean, it's tougher to do. I mean, there's all sorts of variables. Um, and it's something, that a company like Chad's has to consider, with what they're doing. But I mean, the next, like he said, they're booked 10 years almost now. I mean, the ne- you're talking 1972 to 1982, span of 50-year releases of product. That's core stuff that came out that was really popular and really strong. So as long as those people are around, now the wave after that, that's going to be the question. Will the material support the cost? Will the quality of the recording justify the price? That's the other thing. You can only get so much out of something if it's not there in the first place, unless you really start mucking around with it. So, not everything's recorded like, some of these Steely Dan albums are, even Van Halen's. I was thinking, what? Okay, sonically, what's going to happen there? What's sonically, I mean, Jump, for example, like just take a song, Jump. Um, I mean, it could be hotter, I guess, but I mean, it's not a lot of these pressings of what comes out is really because of the richness of the sound and the jazz and the classical and some of the rock that's, I like to see a lot more ELO done, for example. I think they're sonically very strong, for example. Um, that's really, a group that I think needs more audiophile treatment. But I'm damn happy with what came out today. But I mean, I know the effort it took to get that across the finish line. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of other product out there, a lot of other bands, a lot of other material. And that's like Chad, pulling that through. And it's like, how many Chads are there out there? Let's see. You're 46, following buying titles and preparing for retirement. Fortunately, you inherited records. Okay. Well, that's always good. My kids are not. One of them's interested in vinyl. I think for sentimental reasons, some others might want a few, but by and large, it's not like somebody says, I want your collection. It's like that meme. Sorry to hear about your Uncle Tom passing. By the way, who's going to get his records? get down to the get down to the serious stuff there. But I really enjoy passing it down to people who really enjoy it, and want and they're going to consume it, not sell it, not stick it in a closet, but really consume it. That's really what music is made to be listened to. Um, and if you guys have never heard either of these two, these are like a montage of the best male and female vocals. Um, Dean Martin, Amos Lee, J.D. Souther, Tennessee Ernie Ford, Aaron Neville, Tony Bennett, Prairie League, Roy Orbison, Willie Nelson, um, Elvis Presley, Tony Joe White, Harry Nilsson, the Beach Boys, Pete Seeger, Harry Belafonte. So, I mean, these are like the cream of the crop recordings, male vocalists, and they've got one of female. They've also got one of Christmas songs. So these are like, what would I call them? Like things you would use to demo your system. I mean, they're really, really the cream of the crop of those kind of recordings. So New Zealand. Oh, we got a New Zealander. Hello. Old school mic setup, backroom sitting around a laptop recording. Yeah, I see that. Let's see. Oh yeah, bought records at the PX. Yeah, I mean a lot of gear came out of Vietnam. Sansui stuff came here big time. A lot of Sansui that I've seen. And so yeah, there's a lot of that that's going, and that, you talk about stuff that has appreciated in terms of value. Old vintage systems do. I just got a tube amp here, Sherwood, a week or so ago, and I was amazed how much better it sounded after an hour, after the tubes had warmed up. Kind of forgot about that. You do solid state, you turn it on, it goes, and you don't even think about it, right? But it was sounding a little rough for at first. I'm like, what the heck's wrong with this thing? And then I just let it warm up, and boy, that made a hell of a difference. So there's Dallas standing on a blue train. I just got is the quietest vinyl I ever heard. What did that RTI Blue Train cost? What was is that like a $60 album or? Kind of curious. I'm not a huge jazz person, so I know what's going on because I hear. But $53, there you go. But that's a 33 RPM single disc. Is that correct, Alex? Yeah. Oh, it's a double. Oh, wow. Okay. And is it 45 or is it 33? I don't know the album well enough to know. But there you go. Yeah, it's 33. Okay. Well, it's an AP. Yes. Yes and yes on the question. The woman's voice LP. Yeah, let me look here. Let's see. Let me just check here to be sure. It doesn't have that one. Probably have to go on the site to be positive, guys, on this. It doesn't have that round sticker that usually is on that. So I'm not willing to say. It says original master tapes. I would have to look on the site, to be honest with you. Don't want to misspeak, but this is definitely it's mixed. I'm sorry, it's mastered by Kevin Gray. Of course, it was made at QRP, and again, it's like different artists just put together some of the better vocals. It's got Crazy by Patsy Cline. I got this one I haven't opened yet. I need to pull the string on opening that one, enjoying it. This one was amazing. And there's that all analog circle that I was talking about. This one, everything must go. This one is all analog, whereas Two Against Nature had that digital mix step in it. You and Waxed really at odds? I only know Waxed through Rachel's Ghosts show. So, I mean, I've never dealt with him, one-on-one. It's just that there have been a couple of times where now we've not somehow come to blows. So, I mean, it isn't staged. It isn't planned. It happens in real time. And I don't, he makes the comment about he jokes around a lot, but I feel like the animosity there toward me to say I have a chip on my shoulder or whatever is, I like to keep the record straight, so to speak, no pun intended. And I just, for me, there've been a couple of times where it just kind of has gotten to where I felt I needed to say something. and it just we're two very strong-willed, individuals, and he's very pronounced in his beliefs, and I'm pronounced in my beliefs, and I don't mean to come at him. I was My thing was, it was kind of like Price becoming the driver, the driver, and yet, people, in my age, you start looking at it and going, am I going to be around long enough to wait on the best price? I mean, that's really what I meant. And I don't, and I mean, that sounds silly, but the truth of the matter is that does happen. So people, you get older in life, you start to put things in perspective sometimes. And I, think, sometimes I say, yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend that extra $10, but if I don't spend it and listen to it now, I may never. So those are decisions you have to make. There's no right and wrong, but you know, uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's shtick for him and what's not shtick. I don't know. I, I've heard him say some things and then laugh them off or whatever, and I mean, they don't seem like things that would be just laughing off. But okay, everybody has different relationships. I'm not going to say that, but I think in terms of he and I, it seems. I mean, I harbor no ill will toward him, and I told him I really appreciated what he was trying to do. I just was thinking that he was. I'm just going to say I think he kind of hogs the show sometimes, to where you can't get in another perspective. And I know when I was trying to say this issue of you might wait 9 months, but you might only live 8. So, are you going to be able to enjoy what you're listening to? And Mazzy was like, yeah. And he pointed at me, and I thought, yeah, that is a perspective and you can judge it either way. There's no right and wrong. But anyway, I, I know he knows a lot. I know what industry he's in, and he has a lot of exposure and what have you. And, he seems to always be there, so he's the sidekick, and that's fine. That's fine, but you know, uh, give someone else to have a point of view. Give someone else a chance to have a point of view. I guess I would say so. But anyway, I was actually adopted too, so I guess I was born in Canada and then was adopted by a family in the U.S. So I got nothing to nothing to compare there. I mean, that's true. But we're just twin sons of different mothers. I think that was a Fogelberg, Tim Weisberg album, wasn't it? Twin sons of different mothers, something like that. You think the market will continue to support the premium? When you say boxes, do you mean box sets, Alex? I want to be sure. Or do you mean like the UHQRs? I'm not sure. Support the full catalogs. Yeah, you were just kidding about it. Okay, all right. No, I knew you were. I knew you weren't just. I knew you were kidding when you said it. But I'm just being. See, I'm that transparent though. I'm just transparent. I am a dom. I mean, hey, it's okay. I didn't think you meant he was. Um, I just said, funny enough, you said that, and I am, and that's okay. But I guys, I don't. UHQR and one steps. Everything has a ceiling. I firmly believe everything has a ceiling, and we're getting there a bit, I think. When I saw Chad go to 150 on those, I winced a bit. But I will tell you, I think what he typically provides in that box in terms of additional material or other things is better than MoFi, what they give you, which is minimal. And so, I mean, I think there is a warrant that the value is more. And now that we know the other issues with the MoFi, we can judge whether that impacts the value of it or not. But we're really getting to where, yeah, if you're going to do a catalog and you're going to drop a G, you better be a serious believer in Steely Dan. So, yeah, I do have a face for radio too. Oh, last time I saw a face like that, it had a hook in it, just yeah. Anyway, so I think we're hitting, we're we're at that, I don't even want to say sweet spot. We're at that, we're kind of at that cliff a bit, I think. That and the inflation, because disposable income um, is where this really ends up. At the end of the day, there's only so much disposable income. That's it. There is only so much. I hope a couple months they issue the revolver after they buy the bags. You know, I hate to give a record company any credit, but I got a feeling there's a strategy related to the Beatles, and they have kind of played that card to the max. They kind of find every which way to machinate their products to yield, a new reason to buy the latest and greatest. They've they've really, it's just, it is the way it is. And the mono thing, I mean, they could ring that cash register big time on the mono side if they wanted to. And I think they're just going to dangle some carrots, I guess, is the way it looks like to me. Yeah, leave them wanting more. I just think that that's the nature of what's going on. Um, the market's there. But you got to realize a lot of these plans and the things they have to put out. I mean, they need to do those year or two in advance, especially with the pressing capacity. I mean, some of these go in and they say we want to buy so much. We want to buy so much pressing allocation, and they don't necessarily know exactly what that combination is going to be that they need for X amount of thousands of tens of thousands of units. But they need to block that time at the pressing plant in order to be able to do what they need to do. So it's now with more coming online. Final Me Please and MoFi's supposed plant that's supposed to come up in Oxnard, that area. Yeah, I mean that's going to help some. Um, I don't know how open they're going to be to doing any products outside their own, but it doesn't matter in the sense that they're going to offload RTI, for example, and I don't know if the other one's CZ, I guess, in Czechoslovakia. But when is the new capacity due to come on? Capacity where? Um, Novosnik. Well, the Vinyl Me Please, the Vinyl Me Please plant, I guess, is going to come up early next year, and supposedly the MoFi plant is going to come up in early next year. And I know Chad's trying to start a third shift at his facility to add about 30% more throughput as well. So, yeah. So, yeah. And again, it takes time to ramp up and to get into production to where you're confident you can have repeatability and quality in your process to run a assembly line more or less at a certain tact rate, as they're called. Yeah, 149. Yeah, well, that's what the that this last set of UHQRs has been is at that 150. Yeah, the pivoting is hard. Flexibility is hard. These kind of deals take a long time to work through. But you can pretty well sit there and go, just go look on whatever Wikipedia, Billboard, whatever. Go look at the 50-year album releases and start looking at it and going, okay, so they're going to probably have capacity to do this and this and that. These things are all coming. It's a matter of who's going to do it, how it's going to be done, whatever. But they're all, most of them are coming in one way, shape, or form. And that's, the irony is that's a lot of repeat money. Think about it. I mean, I remember you always like, I got it on LP, I got the 45, I got a cassette, I got an 8 track, I got a reel, I got a vinyl album, I got a MFSL of it. It's like I keep paying for it over and over and over again, and that's just the hits just keep on coming. I guess it's kind of like movie royalties or TV royalties, same kind of thing. There's at least four more plants coming online. Where's the new workers training? Well, some of them are more automated, so that does change the type of skill set that you need. Uh, it is automation does provide, I say certain mistake proofing, poke type, things where there's less chance of error, and they don't have to be as skilled in, you know, the operational idiosyncrasies of the product, because it's kind of like the machine takes over and it will tell you if you have a variance of a certain amount, or a heat issue or a pressing time issue or a material flow issue. These sensors and all these things will tell you, and usually a lot of times those guys, they just kind of step back and go, okay, Irv, clean up on aisle 4. It's like bring in the maintenance men. And so I mean the skill set's different when you have manual machinery versus electronic. Now the computer controlled, you need people to program it, and you need those kind of technicians as well. But let's face it, that's having experience in automation and PLCs and computer control logic, and there's a lot of that out there. But the guy that's running the press is going to be more of a just make sure things are running kind of guy. So yeah, I agree. The 45. Yeah, and the other thing is how many times have you not put the right speed on? It's like, oh, then I got a turntable that, it's automatic, but it uses the speed to determine where it's going to go. So it assumes all my 45 RPM are 7-inch records. So it's never going to the front. And, that's a hassle and a half. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're trying to wring that wash rag out to get that very last few precious drops of sound quality out when you go to 45 RPM. But man, go take a 12-inch, a disco record, or a 12-inch extended version of anything, a 12-inch, and look at those grooves. They're laid out just staggered apart from each other in 45 and the RPM and a 6-minute song. And man, they just owned that whole side, and those things sound great. There's no crosstalk to each channel back against each other from the previous revolution. They have all kinds of room for that cut to just be as wide and deep and gougy as it needs to be. And that's what you're getting. And see, the thing about it is, the irony of it is you get more benefit in some ways in those kind of conditions from even, let's say, lower grade styluses, ones that maybe can't get quite as deep, because they normally can't go quite as deep because there's nothing that deep to get down into. So you have opportunity for an elliptical that's maybe 0.0004 times 0.0007 to get down in there, where on a regular record you need a 0.0002 times 0.007 to get down with that elongated looking elliptical. So it's ironic in a way. Some of the you can I say cheap, but you can get away with a little more because that groove is so much more uh, deep and able to get more contact. Still a hassle. Yeah, it is. No, I'm with you 1,000%. Yeah. Yeah, I got that Thriller 12-inch. Yeah, that is something else, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, yeah. That there is a difference sometimes with the UK versus the US. Yeah, single press manual labor. Yeah. So yeah, it is. and more chance of how to put it, yeah, human error. I mean, there's no doubt. I was watching some of the guys when they were doing the pressing, and they're pulling off the record, of course, and it's going to drop. They pull one off occasionally. They look at it, and the thing that came to mind is that old line: "You've seen one, you've seen them all." But the degree to which one can become very complacent or can become very zoned out a bit because of the repetitiveness of what you're seeing, to where you don't see what you need to see. And it's just part of the process. Moving people around, uh, from press to press is in my mind a important thing to do to uh, enhance and transfer skills, and also to break the complacency, to where you're not looking at the same thing for 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever, every 2 hours or whatever. You're looking at a different record label, different formation. You're mixing things up. I think that those are important things to do in terms of process and in terms of cross training. There just are some things that you can do in a business to maximize effectiveness, minimize the risk of people getting stuck in a certain view of what they're doing, in a monotonous type of shift. Older jazz for I just don't think the fidelity is there in those 50s. Yeah, probably so. Let me see if I find this. Hang on. Let's see if it's here. Now, this record was given to me as a filler with an order from some records that I bought. So it's an RCA Living Stereo, music from Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer series. And I got to tell you, this is one of the best sounding. Of course, for Living Stereo, I think we know those were good series, but man, it's called Miracle Surface. This record contains the revolutionary new anti-static ingredient 317X, which helps keep the record dust free, helps prevent surface noise, helps ensure faithful sound reproduction. It's called an orthophonic hi-fi recording. The sound of violence. That can get you in trouble on the web, I would imagine, if you put sound of violence. But yeah, this is a really cool record, and it really sounds unbelievable. I was just blown away, and it was a freebie. Whoa! I'm not going to say dono, but thank you, Prague Hat. Good evening. Look at this $20 goal. All right, that's a goal. We got a goal now. Yeah, guys, if I don't I don't ask for anything. I ask for, your love and participation, but anything you would do, of course, would just be used to do more shootouts and do more for the community is all I really want to do. But I thank you for putting that there. US singles only utilize the first 2 inches of the 12-inch. Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole, yeah, those kind of things drive. What really drives me nuts, guys, is the whole thing is, as you have the wider circumference there when you're on the outer grooves, so you got more information spread out a bit more, and as you come into the center, it's tighter, and then so you really would like the louder songs to be on the outer ring, and the more ballady, quieter songs to be on the inner ring, but it never fails. they'll put they'll put the song that's loudest as the last one on each side or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh. They don't sequence it for mastering for vinyl. They don't think of that issue, I don't think. And that just drives me up a wall. Drives me up a wall. Bob Marley, his songs by the legendary Blu-ray. Wow. Okay. There you go. What's your band? Beatles, Floyd, Fish? Um, I had to do a top 10 the other day of my favorite groups. So you asked, so I'm going to tell you what I said. Just since you asked, I mean, ironically, that's something that I was doing in a group, and it's always tough, I mean, I love Zepp, I love Pink Floyd, I love the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles have been probably the biggest influence on me, in my life because I started collecting records when they were getting hot. But let me see. Number 10 was Tears for Fears. Number 9 was let me see. Is that right? Carpenters, yeah. Number 8 was I did a male solo artist and a female solo artist is number 8. My male artist was Michael Nesmith of the Monkees, and my female artist was Carla Bonoff. If you've never heard Carla Bonoff, her writing you'll recognize. Linda Ronstadt made a lot of hits off of her writing, but her voice is just to die for. 7, Pink Floyd. 6 was ELO/Jeff Lynne. 5 was Steely Dan. 4 was Chicago. 3 was the Beatles. 2 was an indie band called Mute Math. One word, Mutemath. Look them up. They've got a great video called Typical. It's a really interesting video. And my number 1 was a solo artist, Michael W. Smith, who is a Christian artist who I have been following since about 1982. And these were kind of the people that are most impactful to me, and the Beatles were number 1 for a long, long time. So, but you get older, you mature, things change, but they're still obviously way, way up there. But when the Pink Floyd, man, I just they're just so unique. I love their quad pressings. I've got several of their quads in either SACD or vinyl. They, really good production work. I really like good production work, good engineering. Alan Parsons, really good stuff. Yeah, tape. Yeah, reel to reel tape is pretty amazing when it's aligned properly. Yeah, reel to reel tape is yeah, but there's issues there where oxidization of the tapes and the alignment. I mean, but if it's right, I mean, and they're in good shape, they're pretty amazing. Yeah, for sure. I I think that's true. Um, when it comes to UHQR is the Clarity vinyl. That's a whole series of special material and compound. I've been harping on the fact that noise floor is a very important factor in listening to music, and especially in vinyl, of course. Um, and my thing is, you could have something that quote unquote sounds better, but has a really bad noise floor that is not as enjoyable. So, now it's one of those things. You get a really good cart with a good stylus, like a microline type stylus, which is like a Shibata from Audio Technica, and that thing's gonna get down in that groove. So if that thing's not clean, or if that thing's not, or if it's worn down in there, you're gonna pick it up a lot more. But if you really want to get everything that's in that groove, that kind of a stylus tip is going to give you a lot better shot at it. Hello from Singapore. Hey, great. What does it take, an original mono versus digital stereo of classic lost recordings? No one's asked that. Here's the thing. The evolution of music, mono was everything that, in the 50s, that's all that existed. And so the reason, mono was cool in the sense that it worked well was, you could have something playing, let's say on a radio or whatever, in different rooms, and you could move from room to room, and you got the same content. You heard the same thing. If you got closer to one, it would be a little louder maybe, but it wouldn't change the perspective that you have of it. Stereo, especially early stereo, they tried to force really doing, well, partly because they didn't have as many tracks, but to lay it down on, but separating voices and instruments, and really, to show off stereo. But the problem was stereo requires a sweet spot where you're standing, where you catch the mid of everything, you catch it to where it sounds right. If you're too far left or too far right, you're picking up more of one or the other. So anything that happens after that digitized, that gets digitized is kind of, it's kind of fake. And growing up with a transistor radio or a small radio in on a desk, or even in your car, it was all coming out of one sound, one speaker. Um, a lot of stuff was mixed more compressed and hot because of that, because it was all together. So the digitization of those just has kind of a fakish kind of a, even the early Beatles stuff. It's true stereo, but I mean they were just so forced. Singers here. The other day I was at a play. Where was I? Oh, I was at a record show in San Antonio, and they only had one channel playing through the whole speaker system in the room. One channel. So they put a Beatles song on, and all you hear is the instrument track. You wouldn't hear any vocals at all, or vice versa, depending which channel they had on. So it's like, okay, that doesn't work. So, yeah, if they're lost, I mean, I guess, there are some, I've got some software that if you take a mono, it can do a little bit of an enhanced reverb stereo kind of effect just to give it a little depth, but it isn't really trying to, articulate it into channels. It just provides a little depth to it, and that can sound a little nice. I mean, it can give it a little bit of depth without separation to where you're going to lose the effect because it's all on one side or the other. So yeah, cool. You got 5 copies. Yeah, I've got the Dark Side of the Moon German version. That's SQ. Um, Modern Christian music is devotional. I'm not familiar with it. Well, there's a whole worship type music that's out there. It's called worship music. And Michael W. Smith, who I mentioned, he does popish songs that are Christian, and he does um, really well written songs about events, and he does worship, and some of those songs are done in churches. So it's kind of a blend, I would say. Um, and there's kind of a uh, there's just two pools in Christian music, kind of the artists and their own material, and then the Christian kind of the songs that everybody knows that are the Christian songs that are sung in service, or newer songs. There's a lot of newer songs written by people like Michael W. Smith and Matt Mayer and others who are becoming Hillsong. Their songs are showing up in a lot of churches. So it's kind of like two camps, but there are artists who delve into both, like Michael does, and it's very uplifting stuff. And there's times that I just need that, just there just are those times. So I had this problem high on priorities. Money for listening to So I don't know which pressing you're talking about, Junichi. If it's are you talking about a mobile fidelity and analog production, or just a standard? Which one are you talking about with the Muddy Waters? And I'm sure not. Hi, Jason. I'm just not a. I'm just not as up on that. So maybe somebody else here can help you if you could clarify. Robert Johnson Centennial, way better than any other. Okay, yeah. So I mean, destroyed in the universal fire. So where did the masters come from? Well, I got to say that there have been statements that tapes were lost in the fire made by, in fact, the New York Times that were not correct, and they never corrected it. And I know that's true because Buddy Holly uh, original album was one of them because Chad has. So it just there were assumptions made and statements made, and I'm not saying the New York Times made up things. They were probably told things, but when the truth came out about what really was later found and netted out, I don't think they ever really kind of it was probably wasn't on top of their list of things to do. So yeah, so yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as big as I mean, it was big, but it wasn't. The content wasn't quite what they. I got to tell you guys, it is amazing to me the amount of bad information and bad record keeping, no pun intended, that was done on tapes and things. It's ridiculous. You would think these things have no value whatsoever the way they were managed. It's just ridiculous. I think that's changing because they're kind of like going, oh boy, these are cash cows. We need to protect these puppies. And that's part of why Sony really won't let any go except to a few key people. So, yeah, Chad has classic record stuff. I saw it. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it does touch the soul. And it's good. I took my son, I went to go see Michael W. Smith did worship with an orchestra in Nashville at the end of July, and he recorded it, and it was released on September 11th because it was the 20th anniversary, because his first worship album was actually released on 9/11/2001, coincidentally. Maybe not. But anyway, I went and saw that live, and man, it's on DVD. It was on TBN. It's on YouTube. Just amazing orchestration and showmanship. I mean, and I tell you what was crazy about it to me. I mean, everybody there knew it was being recorded for a record and for a video. I think everybody pretty well knew that. God knows there were enough flying cameras around to know it looked like a Wizard of Oz flying monkeys routine. But they never really announced anything ahead of time about when to clap, when not to clap, what to do, what not. There was nothing said, which I thought was awfully surprising given the nature of what they were doing and the amount of time and investment they had. But I will tell you, the place was like a pin drop everywhere it needed to be, and no early applauses until that last note was by the conductor. Was I mean, it was like the audience was in perfect tune and timing and choreography with what was going on. I never experienced anything like it, and it just was interesting. And my son has Downs, and so we were only about 5 rows back, but the lady came and pulled us to the front and sat us in the front on the one of the corners. And I was watching a video the other day, and I'm like, oh, there I am. Oh God, get that camera away from me. But it was they had a marching band come out with the drums playing. Oh, it was something. Vanderbilt. It was great. Yeah. Ozzy tapes in that mountain bunker. Yeah, could be. You talk about a great multi-channel album. Man, Paranoid is a great 4-channel album. Wow. Iron Man. Yeah, it's a little bit wicked. So, and I'm, yeah, yeah, there's a lot of people that have some pretty awesome collections. There's no doubt about it. But um, everybody, everybody builds based on their own, experience and taste. And Harry was saying the other day, he's like, he just started buying jazz last year or so, and he's got, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 albums it looked like, and he was really getting into it, and it is. Hey, thanks, Novus Nick. I think that jazz and other music really, it's really a feeling kind of music. It's really those guys really get into what they're feeling when they're playing, and there's improvisation and there's holistic energy there that they kind of get in sync with one another. And I love cymbals getting hit with a stick and really feeling that tap and hearing that tap. It drives me nuts when it's like the new Beatles Revolver, right? They came out with Taxman. They came out on the YouTube with it. And so they got it as a one, it's just a Taxman song. And I'm like, where's the tambourines? Where's the cowbell? And then I saw a video that they did that was on the actual release of the album, and they were playing Taxman. And all of a sudden, you can hear the cowbell and the tambourine very clearly. And I'm like, well wait a minute. What am I going to get when I buy it? I just really crazy. I don't get that. You met him in Black Sabbath and Ozzy, my number one met him at work years ago. Number one. I'm thinking of Austin Powers stuff here. You say number one. You are number two. No. Wonderful Japanese repress. Oh, yeah. I have the EMI Pro Use Series, Toshiba EMI. I don't know if that's the one you have, but that's my go-to copy. That's my go-to copy, and it's Japanese. Yeah, I do think there's a maturity about jazz. You gotta. It's an acquired appreciation, I think, honestly. Oh, yeah, I don't have the Cisco pressing, so I can't venture a guess on. Uh, okay, not a pro use. Okay, but I'll tell you, I don't know. I got a bet on Chad. I got a bet on Chad. I just really do. um, he's um, he's a Steely Dan aficionado. I found that out. He and I were kind of talking deep Steely Dan stuff. I think we both, hear things and really have, different sense of similar sensibilities about Steely Dan and the recordings and what they do and how they're made. I mean, I just really think, if you really sit down and listen and you think about it, put on Do It Again and maybe listen on headphones and listen to the exotic sound and the instrument. It's just so unique, so different. I mean, it's not like almost anything that was out in the pop market ever. I mean, it's just so rich. I don't know, just something about it. And I just think we kind of, it was a big hit and it was like number 6 and like, oh yeah, here we go, do it again. Sounds good. But I think if you really listen to it, it's just like, wow. And it just blows your doors off. I think when you really recognize the instrument, the musicianship that it took to create that percussive sound that song, just as an example, has. Yeah, I'll look for anybody with the Cisco. I don't have one, so but the good news is that the first Steely Dan is, relatively around the corner, November 4th. So that's good. Um, Chad did Black Sabbath records before. Yeah. Now it's funny, Rhino comes out with some good stuff now all of a sudden. They're hiring some really good mastering engineers, and I mean they're up in their game. I mean, I don't know if Warner threw some money at them or what happened, but they're really up in their game quite a bit, and uh, good on them. I mean, they kind of had almost a K Telly kind of branding aura before, but they're really doing some serious work. Another good label, and it's an extension of Rhino, ironically, is Runout Groove. I don't know if you've heard any of the Monkeys stuff on the Runout Groove label. I think that they're really doing some amazing stuff as well. And I think I showed you guys that Chris Isaac, that's RSD white vinyl. That wow, that blew my socks off last night. I listened to it. I was amazed. He has his voice is so unique. I mean, Chris Isaac, he's kind of like the Roy Orbison of our day in a way. I mean, his voice can just go really deep and low and high, and I mean, he's just all over the place. But the music of that really just draws out the kind of the soul and the achy kind of sound that he has, an eerie kind of sound in that album. I mean, that is the best $25 I've spent in a long time. I mean, in terms of just something that surprised me and just blew me away. Which it's good to, once in a while take a chance on something, buy something, that you might not normally get. And I just heard enough good things about it. I said, this many people can't be wrong. That's for sure. Yeah, GZ plant. So Precision in Canada, I guess, is a outcrop of GZ out of Czech Republic, I guess. So there's some concern about, well, how good is the quality going to be of these Steely Dan $30 units that come out that are pressed on vinyl from the digital copy of Grunman's master. And I don't obviously know the answer to that, but apparently that's a newer plant. So hopefully they're good, because we definitely want the people who spent the $30 of hard-earned money to get a decent return on it. That's for sure. Yeah. You know, digital is you know, t- there's an art and a craft to analog. And you're getting less people that are skilled in that, and less that would want to do it naturally. Kids are coming up, with this stuff in their computers, and they're used to, everything's digitized. I mean, that's just kind of like where they come from. So it's, and the thing is, you show an accountant a chance to save, 20 cents or a half an hour, and they're gonna, piss all over the newspaper in front of you. I mean, that's just the way business can be, honestly, at a macro level. But you throw something like that in front of Chad, and he's just going to laugh at you. I mean, he's going to say, "Don't care, doesn't matter." Not, and again, there's some digital that is done very, very well. So you don't want to paint with a certain brush, but it does create a potential for haste, and if you don't have the right DA converters, I mean, it can be messy. But in and of itself, it's not a death sentence in and of itself. I mean, we've got the one steps from Mobile Fidelity that were done to DSD 256, and the Eagles one, they sound great. I mean, they do. So I mean, it's not like that's impossible. Would they sound better if they were pure analog? I don't know. Theoretically, that's true, but I don't know. I really don't know. And I think the question is, it's always going to be this: I bought X, I paid Y. Was it worth the cost? Did I get what I expected or hoped to get? take the name off, take the, just think about whether your ears and your brain came together and said they were satisfied or not. That's really what it boils down to. Okay. ORG gets at 45. Good. Wasn't sure about the until I got a used copy of the Jimi Hendrix. And Jason, your socks were blown off by that, I guess. I'm going to assume. uh, okay, lots of Japanese. Yeah. Well, and let's talk frankly a little bit here, and that is, and digital tends to have potentially a little brighter signature to it, potentially, allowing a little more top end, and that is typically a sound that is liked more. Um, in I'll say Asian countries, but definitely Japan. I mean, they tend to skew their stuff a little higher on the high end and a little not quite as deep on the bottom end or poundy or whatever term you want to use. So there's also, I think, a little better degree of compatibility with the sound signature that is the market is likes, because the way things are mixed there, I'm sorry, mastered there, excuse me, well, mixed too probably, but let's say mastered for now, definitely can be a little skewed toward the audience of the country and what type of defaults they tend to have in terms of what they find appealing. Same way with German. German tends to be a little deeper, a little bassier, a little gutsier, right? It's just that's the audience. I think to some degree has an, whether it's an overt influence or a planned, or whether it's just that those people themselves in that culture are more reconciled to that kind of sound. I can't say, but I've had people who are actually from those countries say that to me. So I don't feel like I'm just theorizing. I've had people say that I've known over the years from those countries. So ton of classical or digital recording. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, analog has its challenges, and it's very I won't say messy to work with, but you talk about making the sausage. You know, it's like the old saying, you don't want to see how sausage. I mean, it's really a lot more raw than digital. I mean, digital is just you take it in, you have a file, you visually work with it. You make adjustments based on what you're visually seeing and based on the feedback you're getting. You can do any number of hot edits, quick edits, whatever you want to do. You can have any number of iterations of trying it different ways and laying them back to back, side to side, and testing them. I mean, you just have so many options. Where the tape, you're sitting here spinning a tape, and if you got to cut a tape, oh my gosh, it's like brain salad surgery. Not to quote Emerson, Lake and Palmer there, but yeah, that is so. Yeah, their walls are too thin. Well, I'm sure every apartment dweller in the United States wants people to buy Japanese vinyl in order to succeed for that piece, but hell with it. Screw them. Uh, yeah, yeah, things change. I agree, and again, th- these are some generalizations. It's not always the case, but I mean, it's fair that there are generalizations, and they're most often true. But again, you got to let your ears be, to tell you what it is. And it's like it was like I did a shootout on Eye in the Sky, and I did the OG. I did a MoFi 2x45, and I did Speaker's Corner. Well, every Speaker's Corner I have done has been very impressive for the money. Well, for whatever reason, for some reason, this one just sounded flat. Um, it was clean, but it was just lifeless. Maybe is the word. I mean, I did a review on it, and I was just befuddled because every other Speaker's Corner I had was really pretty damn solid. And then I came to read on their site that, oh, by the way, this was the only file the only time we ever had where we didn't get a tape. We were sent a file, a digital file, and we were forced to have to use that. Now, several of Parsons albums, Alan Parsons albums, were recorded on both tape and digital. Um, Alan Alan is one of the ADA kind of guys, ADHA. I mean, he's very anal about what he does. He's an engineer. He wanted backups. He takes care of his stuff, and he won't let anything get out unless it's what he really wants. So, how or why they ended up with the digital for Speaker's Corner, and the analog ended up for MoFi to use. I'm not sure what the story is on that in terms of how it happened. But at the end of the day, whether it was because it was digital or not, I have no idea. But the Speaker's Corner one, and pretty much anybody I have gotten a comment from said, yeah, I agree. It was disappointing, and I don't know. If you're used to mastering from tape, and then you're mastering from digital, uh, I think it's a different ball game. I think you almost need someone different to do it, because that's not. It's just sometimes I don't say the skills don't trans over, but it's not really as much the skills as it is um, the sound signature awareness that needs to be there. Um, so um, it seems like guys like Bernie, Grunman, do good on both, because he's put out some really good remasters on Pink Floyd stuff that are digital. Yet, of course, he besmirches digital a lot when he talks about analog. I mean, it's obviously preferred, but he has proven time and time again with these re-releases that he can do a damn good job with digital as well, if that's what he's packed. You know, so. You're looking for the OG Eye in the Sky Speakers Corner. For me, was very soft. I think my cassette sounds better. There you go. Okay, there you go. I mean, I'm a Speakers Corner fan for the money. I think they do great work, and that just was the one. And then I read that, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. Again, I don't know. Let's see. I just hate when they say Japan Press. There are two companies: Sony U.S. plates and Pioneer English plates. Uh, there you go, Jason. Yeah. So yeah, you got it. Has anybody listened? Has anybody done the latest Hendrix UHQR? Is it Are You Experienced? I got it sitting over there, I think. I don't see it. Maybe I moved it. But anyway, has anybody heard that one, the newest one? Well, Junichi, the thing about it's from original tapes, does it say it's original analog tapes? Just to be clear, because it is from an original digital tape. Words matter. I mean, it's like iRobots on a U-matic. I think that they can do that one at Abbey Road because they've got a U-matic to read those. But I mean, original tape and original analog tape versus original digital tape. Let's say it was originally done in digital. We know albums that are like that. The Nightfly, Brothers in Arms, right? So that is the original. I mean, there is no analog. So I mean that original to me means it was it should be really the first two track, you know, copy. Or I say copy, it should be the first two track master. If you're going to say original master recording. If you have the new Floyd's play with conical style, it will sound like old days. Yeah. Yeah. Conical stylus is just right up high in the groove and they just don't get down in there at all. If, elliptical and if you can do a microline, those are really your Shibata as well. But microline's kind of the newer name for those. They definitely get you a better ride. Uh, Now, the better ride means they're going to be, down in there. So if they're not cleaned well, then going to pick up more too. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes down to it. But yeah, I'm trying to unwrap some of these Alan Parsons issues. I have a friend from high school whose brother plays guitar for Alan when they tour, and I'm trying to arrange some kind of three-way or something where I can ask some questions of him. He's not doesn't do interviews very much. He's pretty private, and I know he's had some health issues here recently. And but I definitely have a set of questions related to some of his recording techniques that I would love to find out while he's still with us. I guess I'll just say, for lack of a better way to put it. He's a amazing a person. So maybe I'll get a break on that at some point here. I've put the word in down the line. We're going to see if anything comes of that. But unfortunately, I was supposed to see him in March of 2000 in Nashville with Jeff, the guitarist, because my friend lives in Nashville, and that's where we're going to meet him there. So COVID killed my chance to meet Alan Parsons one on one. So, yeah, I got a lot of Alan Parsons. Do you have the first Ambrosia album? It was engineered by Alan Parsons on 20th Century Records, which was his first label for Tales of Imagination with Edgar Allan Poe. If you don't, it's got like a V fold flap that comes down. Ambrosia, their first album, get it. It's a great prog album and an amazingly well recorded record. Amazing. So, if you ever happen to see that one out in the wild, might be 10 or $15, but it's well worth it. It was before they went into their popish kind of sound when they went over to Warner Brothers from 20th Century. Their first two albums were prog. So, are you experiencing? But there was something strange about it. It was like taking a microscope on an old recording. You can tell Hendrix did the lead vocal overdubs. Okay. Well, so I guess if you could tell that, then maybe that's an indication of how accurate it is. Sometimes accuracy brings out blemishes. It's like buying a better mirror, right? Ugh, yeah, better camera. Yeah, I think that's so. What was the oh no not left break? I'm not sure what you were referring to. Sorry. Sometimes these things get lost in translation when I'm talking and I'm not able to piece these things together. I'd like to get a subscriber only. That would be cool. A subscriber only stream with somebody like Alan Parsons. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be amazing. But I don't know if you've ever heard the first Pink Floyd mix of Dark Side of the Moon. It's 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 somewhat different. I mean, it's there are similarities obviously, but it's definitely missing some things, and some things aren't as mature. But it is an interesting view into building a record up. And that album was made to be quad right out of the box. It was 4 channel, then folded down to two, so it was meant to be quad all along. Oh, Mr. Parsons. Okay. Okay. I bought it. I think I've opened it, to be honest with you. uh, I can't say I'm the hugest Hendrix fan, but there have been a lot of times I've bought one of these, and then a friend, it goes out of print, and then a friend comes by later and really is dying to get one and couldn't get it, and I'll sell it to him. Um, just because sometimes I think these, at some one point or another, sometimes these do increase in value somewhat, but that's really become a lot less true. It kind of depends on what it is. I mean, some of the one steps, the Muddy Waters one steps, I saw them going for $79 at Plaid Room in Cincinnati. So $125 record devalued pretty quickly, pretty quickly. So I would say we're talking about Alan Parsons. I'd say Vulture Culture is one of my favorite albums. It's a little poppier, but I think it was a missed opportunity for a couple of singles off of that album. That was I thought one of just his better, less known albums. But a lot of, I mean, he's got very thematic albums: Turn of the Friendly Card, I Robot, Eye in the Sky. Very Poe is a genius album in my opinion. Poe is it's one of those that takes me um, takes me into the space of Edgar Allan Poe's writing in his mind almost, which obviously I think is his point. But it's once in a while you like to get immersed, and then sometimes you just want to enjoy it. But I would tell you that if you think Alan Parsons' career was, different, you're right, because I mean, he did very few vocals for his own records because it was called the Alan Parsons Project, which meant it was like a project to be done in a studio band. They didn't tour for a bit, that wasn't their aim, and then they got popular, and then they did, and then he does some vocals now, but Eric Wolfson was really kind of the backbone of the vocal side. But just really some good engineering, some good production work, which I really, for me, even when the music isn't always switched on for me totally, if I can get something that's well produced, well engineered and mastered, I can just really enjoy the hell out of the technology and the process I know it went through to get there. Because that to me is that's the magic part. That's for sure. I think that there's a lot of golden Easter eggs out there, like that Chris Isaac I was mentioning. It's just these run out groove ones that are done are just fabulous. For example, just and then you get other stuff. It's like the first Abbey Road half speeds I thought were poor or weak, or I don't know what they were. They just weren't doing much for me. And I guess maybe half speed has its negative connotations, and more I've listened to Kevin Gray about it and thought about it and listened to some things, I think he's probably onto something related to the theory of that. Decca introduced that back in the 50s, and then got away from it, and I think it can serve some things better than others, but ideally I think it does have shortcomings. I totally agree. I don't I'm impressed. Mixed in Japan. Yeah. Wow. Where would you say, Junichi, where would you say the majority are? Let's see. The two, I'll tell you, Hikani Sony albums are not actually Japanese press, Australian press. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things go on that we really can't know until the credits side of this Discogs. When you start looking at albums, there's a lot of interesting information, uh, back information about who might have been mastering it, the lacquer cut. There's just interesting things that are there, and I enjoy looking at those because I it becomes very insightful to me. Um, it's like, for example, Bernie Grumman never used to put his initials into anything. It wasn't a thing. Ludwig was doing it, but Bernie didn't, and now he kind of does because people expect it and want it because it has a certain cachet to it. So things in the industry, they do change. There's no doubt about it. Oh, U.S. press. Okay, not Aussie press. Okay, okay. Wow. Yeah, I'd like to try one of those OG UK DSOTMs against my EMI Pro use. Not that I think that the UK wouldn't beat it, but the question is, what's the gap? It's always what's the gap to me. Um, I haven't heard one of those. I've seen them, but I haven't heard one of those. But it's like the RL Zeppelin. Until you really hear one and experience one, it's all just talk. I mean, hot mix, this, that, when it's really a hot mastering, not a hot mix, really. But that's a technicality. But it's yeah, it's different. I mean, you got to be careful where your speakers are relative to your turntable because it wants to jump out of the groove from the vibration of the actual cart being in the actual groove, and then you have the sonics coming out of the speaker, and it's a different experience. There's no doubt. Yeah, well, that's for me, that's the thing about the EMI Pro use is it's Japanese and it has really decent bass, which is not usually the case. So again, that's what makes a distinction, for me. It drive my neighbor nuts. Yeah. Well, I had the good fortune of picking one up in Sweden for $40. I don't. The guy didn't know what he had. I'm sure of that. There's no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, you talk about that, and that's something that Grumman says is that the first Thrillers were cut too hot. They had to tone it down because Bruce Sweden was trying to get Quincy to make sure that Grumman just pegged everything, and they were just like he said they were distortion enabled, and he wasn't really happy with. I guess maybe that's why he was glad his initials weren't on it at that point, but I think he wasn't. I guess that would have been his Robert Ludwig Led Zeppelin 2 moment, where he knowingly, and it was jumping out of the grooves on turntables. So that was, they his point was made through the market, of course. Oh, so is the real to real, it has that that deep bass in there too? Because I thought it was more the mastering for vinyl that caused that. Terre Haute. Yeah, I know Terre Haute, Indiana. Definitely. Yeah, I have off the wall. I have actually the CBS half speed. They used digital back then. They were real proud of it. Some of them are okay, some of them aren't. What I do really like is the quad of "Wish You Were Here" on CBS. That's pretty good. That has some pretty low bass. Welcome to the Machine. Definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Quincy thought "Off the Wall" was a better album than Thriller, actually, at least from a song standpoint, production standpoint. So, they're both good in their own different way, I guess. I got a, I've got a VHS, not a, sorry, I've got a laser disc of Thriller, Michael Jackson, of the whole making of Thriller and all that. That was a big thing at the time, right? Yeah, Jason, you're right. The condition of RLs are typically not good. That's why I found one in VG Plus, and I was ecstatic to find one in VG Plus condition. Yeah, you got yours for 20. I got mine for 40, but okay. I think we both got a pretty good deal. Um, because I bought one that was a lot more than that, and it was the guy said it was a VG Plus, and it was barely a G Plus, and I I sent it back and got my money back. Anybody buy on Discogs very much? Kind of curious. I don't think I bought one thing on Discogs because I'm always afraid that if I'm specifying a certain pressing or something, that what I'm going to get isn't going to match what it is. And I guess yeah, you can contact them, have them send you info or pictures or whatever. But I guess finding the right seller is always a critical thing. Someone you can trust. Discogs is great as a database, though. I will say that I like it. Rather go to eBay. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to decide how to sell. I've got a Beatles box set that's sealed, the original Mobile Fidelity collection box. It's sealed in the cardboard box. I bought two of them, and it's just taking up space, and I could use the money for buying other stuff. So I'm working on trying to figure out the best avenue to take that because it's, I think it may be changing value, reducing value maybe with the MoFi thing. I'm not sure. You've had bad luck with Discogs. Well, yeah, okay, there you go. It's amazing to see recognition. Yeah, that's a great. That's a great point. I'm going to add that to a list I have. I mean, I'm guessing. I say this age. I mean, I'm sure is part of it. Um, so, truth is, some people, I mean, it's kind of like you made enough money. It's not that. It's not the fame. Um, you just want to spend your time. Whatever you got left, you want to spend it in a certain way. I mean, I get that. I get that. What's the rough value at the moment? If you meant the Beatles box, I'd say, and I don't think any of these were in the box. In other words, we're in the transportation box. But it's between 2 and 3K. 2,500, I would say, is what Are we still masters CDs? Hmm. Yeah, well, that's relatively easy work. I mean, relatively to vinyl, I think so. Still pays the bills, I guess. Still pays the bill. Oh, okay. Got Led Zepp posters. Okay. Seriously into collecting Beatles. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've been collecting their stuff for a long, long time, and some of it duplicates and stuff I've sold, and that's a duplicate to me because I have an open set that I won't sell. That I play once on a blue moon, but since I got the BC 13 blue box set in the UK, uh, I tend to play that more. Um, just because it's newer. I mean, I've had the other one since '82, so yeah. My interview with Chad. Yeah, you're welcome. We had a couple other topics that we covered, and the video and audio. Shouldn't say the video. The audio was so problematic we really couldn't use it, unfortunately. But he has promised me once he gets past this hump of two announcements, this one and the next one, that I'm going to come back up to Kansas and we will finish up and probably have a few more questions now that we have all this happening. So thanks. Yeah. Okay. So Junichi, what I have heard is the 2019 Quad Mix fold down. It's a stereo fold down, and I have that. It was on clear vinyl, and the mixes were just different. I guess is all I can say, and they weren't quad, so I don't know. It was kind of like there's more there, but it was all still in 2 channel, and it just I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me, frankly. Um, yeah, cheaper OG mono if please me. Yeah, well, good luck. There you go. Completing a collection to get the stereo versions as well. Boy, the other day, I don't remember who it was. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter. Somebody said they really hated the mono version of. Oh no, it wasn't the mono. I take that back. It was the remix of Sergeant Pepper's that Giles Martin did, and I had heard. I mean, it seemed like generally I'd heard pretty good things about it. But there are certain like Paul McCartney's Ram in mono sounds really different. I mean, just really like Monkberry Moon Delight, the echoes that come out in that are not really present in the stereo are just crazy. So it just there are albums that really can have a totally different presence when they're done in mono. Um, when I think about it, when you have it in mono, if you're serious about really as an artist, you're serious about that being the cut or that being the one that really defines it. It seems to me you really are focused on what you want to emphasize or de-emphasize or whatever. When it comes to stereo, it tends to bleed out a little more, and it's relative, no pun intended, but it's kind of relative to your thinking and your hearing because of you hearing it in different spatial way. So, I thought about that, and I thought, why did he want that echo so pronounced in the mono, and then in the stereo, it's kind of like not hardly there, you know, and it just, yeah, it's just that's a whole, how do I put it? That's a whole discussion on it in and of itself. I mean, it's easy to say, oh yeah, the Beatles, they worried about the mono mixes because they knew that's what people were going to listen to on the radio, and and that's kind of, and that's really what they were concerned about. And the stereos were kind of a, you know, a blow off, so they really didn't have much to do with those. Um, and really, some of those techniques were pretty bad, panning and separation and everything. So I could see, why they just didn't give a shit about it. But it's their product. I mean, I just feel like they should have. I guess if they had input, what would it have been? I wonder. The mono RAM is cool. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. No, yeah, Norm, you were the guy. Yes, exactly. I wasn't going to name who it was, but you were the guy. You were the guy. Yeah, the mono RAM. Yeah, it is cool. It is. Yeah, I've got a white label of that. It's yeah. I was because I mean Ram was one of my favorite albums in early '70s. I mean, I just played the hell out of that album. I wore out my copy I had originally, and so it's kind of like it inside out, and then to play the mono, and it's like, well, wait a minute, where'd those sounds come from? Where did that come from? So Norm's got a really really good show, and he was my cheerleader this morning. Thank you, Mazzy. That was great. I was loving the pom poms. It was. Oh gosh, we had that. We already had that talk. It blew the boring early '60s pop music away. Yeah, the Beatles blew a lot of things away. Yeah, there's leading edge and there's bleeding edge, and but I've always said this, guys, and the country in Norm, you were around then too, and I was a kid too, and the country was in such a funk from the Kennedy assassination. It wasn't that long before the Beatles came to the U.S., and it was almost like when I Want to Hold Your Hand hit right before Christmas, and then it just kind of things started looking up a little bit. It was just like we needed something. It was just an unbelievable time. Who is Norm? Passy. It was just like we needed something, and I think frankly, when you look at all the reels of when they came here and everything, and and it's just like I look at that, but I always think about where we were and who we were and what our country was like and what our kind of our persona was at that time, and it was it was a little bit low. It was, and I just think that's they brought something to the table above and beyond just the impact of new music, and I think that's um, yeah, I liked your review too, Maz. That was good on animals. So I mean, I think so. The Beatles had, it wasn't just what we see on the surface with the girls going crazy and everything, which was all perfectly real, but we it kind of pulled us up by our bootstraps a bit, and I just think honestly, a lot of times for some reason that doesn't seem to be um, a perspective. I just remember it really strongly. I don't know why. I remember, how depressed I was. Didn't know it was depression at the time as a kid, but I was just in a funk after the president got shot. And then the guy who supposedly shot the president got shot, and you're thinking, you talk about tumultuous times. That, then everything else that happened in '68, but the Beatles really were, the thing that really I think helped bring change the subject. I guess that's the way I'll put it. It changed the subject, and God knows the subject needed to get changed at that time. So I have a lot of memories of what it meant, from that perspective, which is a little different than just the music in and of itself. You know, you know, you think about it too. These crazy songs, 1 minute and 59 seconds, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. They're just like, it's over. Okay, next. They could get so much out of so little. Yeah, it's just, it's just, yeah, just the whole construct is just something to be looked at from a lot of different angles. Yeah. Oh, okay. Please, please meet Junichi. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one to have because it's their, I mean, it's their earliest incarnation, at least uh, from a UK perspective. I enjoyed I don't know about you all, but I just feel like Capitol really just, I was going to say butchered, but that's really not a great word to use with the Beatles. It kind of, but anyway, the Capitol just seemed like, I don't know, they just, and you didn't realize it at the time because that's all you had. But when you start to listen to some of the stuff from the UK and what was there and what we had in the US, Capitol seems to, have really did some weird stuff. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Did they pay them to play that Queen song? I don't know. Maybe Mazzy knows that story. The Get Back documentary, I tried to get into that. I really did. And I don't know what it was. Was it the pace or was it? I just really had the hardest time. Um, I don't know what it was. I really don't. But I mean, I got to give it another shot, of course. But I just maybe I wasn't in the right mood, or I was really busy, and it just took so much time. I don't know. It just seemed like it moved really slow, and it just I don't know. I know it was real, so it wasn't like entertain me kind of a thing. But I just really struggled with it a bit. I felt bad for the Stones. Well, yeah, they're pretty different in a lot of ways, I think. And I guess they needed to be, right? But when I was in radio, it's kind of like, you start looking at a playlist for the day or whatever, and you go, oh my gosh, I got 4 Beatles songs on here, and that's going to be 8 minutes for so. It's like not going to be going to have to really be on my toes there because they're going to be over no sooner than I start them. Can't take any phone calls during those songs because you'll probably not get done with the call. You can't, it's just something you always had to think about in radio, right? It's definitely a right mood kind of, okay, well, maybe it's not just me then. Okay. I mean, I really, to know the backstories of things I really like. I mean, I really find that very interesting. Um, by the way, there was a documentary, and I can't remember if it was on Amazon Prime or if it was on Netflix, about the actress Rosemary, who was on the Dick Van Dyke Show. And I never knew how connected she was with the mob and how protected she was because she was a child star, which I didn't know. And the mob basically protected her all of her life. And she was involved in getting some of the casinos started in Las Vegas and doing shows there. And I just really found out a lot of stuff about Hollywood, and about her particular involvement in that and the mob and what it was doing. And so it was just kind of interesting. I never would have expected there to be any kind of very much of a story around her, but it was quite interesting. I really found it to be interesting. So if you get a chance to see it, it's kind of like a backstory. It's kind of like, the Tommy James and the Shondell story about roulette records and the mob. Look that one up. There was, uh, you better get another hit, kid. I hope you got another hanky panky in there. We need another hit. You know, so that kind of thing. Yeah. You were 9. Okay. Yeah, Paul. You were 9. Yeah, I was 7. Yeah, 7. So, yep. Yeah, it was a big deal when they appeared on. So, yeah, that was a huge, huge deal. It was a huge deal. Yeah, the competition, but it was like, how do I put it? Everybody, there was plenty to go around. That's what it felt like to me. You had the Kinks, and they did some of their stuff, and you had Peter and Gordon, and you just had Hermit's Hermit. You just had Dave Clark 5. You just had these, and everybody got their slice of the pie, and it was all, it was, the bigger, I'll say rivalries, was a little bit like, the British owned the charts, right? From February of 64 to what, May, I guess it was. Finally they got on. They had 3 singles that had 13 weeks solid of number 1, and then I think it was Hello Dolly by Louis Armstrong that actually knocked the Beatles off. Do You Want to Know a Secret was number 2. So it was like it took it took Hello Dolly to knock the Beatles off. It somehow doesn't even seem possible. And then the first U.S. band that knocked them off were the Beach Boys with "I Get Around in July." So the Beatles were always hovering right up there in the top 5. I mean, they were just they were duking it out with themselves. When you start looking at the charts, it was kind of ridiculous. You know, um, Can't Buy Me Love as a song. I guess that's got to be a song. Question: Can't Buy Me Love, Please Please Me. Yeah, for me, it's Please Please Me, because it's just the early. It's kind of like the early thing for me. The Can't Buy Me Love's a little more movie-ish, so I think of the movie. But Please Please Me is kind of like the raw innocence, early, kind of thing. And the ending there, the ending of that song, the way it's with Ringo, I like songs with cold endings. And the king of cold endings on songs is Roy Orbison. He always said, do a cold ending when you write a song, because when you're going to perform it live, what are you going to do? Fade out? I mean, yeah, he was really big on cold endings, and he did it well. He did it very well, and yeah, he was right. I mean, it's a technique. I always had a thing that I said, in general, and again, there's always exceptions, but in general, a song that begins with the title of the first words won't be successful. So, don't know. I'm sure there's been exceptions, but in general, a lot of times I don't like songs where the title begins at the whatever the title is the first words in the song. Weird, I know. Okay, no, I mean, you're all hearing what my psychiatrist hears, so it's okay. It's all right. I just don't have to pay you. I guess that's the only difference. But you're not going to give me any assistance anyway. So, but these are just some of these little things that are part of my psyche, I guess. Not that. No, I know you're going to go and tell Wax what my psyche's about, and he's going to try to blow my mind. I know. That's okay. All right. I know what's going to happen there. Chuck is in love. Chuck E's in love. Is that what you mean? Chuck E's in love by Ricky Lee Jones. Chris Isaac. Yeah, I don't know if the album I bought was his debut, but this one is just It's the one that has oh hell's bells. I hate it when I can't think of something. Wicked Game, yeah. Heart Shaped World, is that what Heart Shaped World is that? I don't know if that was his first album or not, but that's the one I was talking about. You talk about a guy with an eerie voice. Wow. It's got kind of a Roy Orbison kind of sound to it, but I just really getting into it. Beach Boys kept going despite nowadays being known publicly. Yeah. Well, the Beach Boys knew who they were. They had a definition, they had a niche, and that's where they went, and that's what they pursued, and that's who they were, and they were never ashamed of it or what. I mean, it's like the Monkees thing kind of always had a bad taste in the mouth of, oh, we're just these guys on TV and they don't want to let us play music, and Nesmith was always wanted. I mean, it was a mess, right? But the Beach Boys, they always knew who they were. They always were okay with what they were and who they were, and they just wrote it out to the best possible way. So I think that's the sign of a intelligent group of guys who leverage what they have and don't try to be something else. Yeah, a good song began with the word girl. Not that I have to think. Scritti Politti. Okay. Oh, his debut was self-titled. Okay, Paul. I'll have to look that up. I'm just, like I said, I'm just getting into him. I know the voice. That song, Wicked Games. I want to say I want to say that show that was on HBO called Goliath. Some of his music must have been in there. It just I don't know why that sound. I keep getting images from that TV show in my mind when I hear his voice. Not many voices kind of haunt me kind of sound, but his kind of has a can be haunting a little bit. Well, I like it. It's unique. And Roy Orbison, man, that guy, to me, he's just was a master. Very low key, but just smooth, very very smooth. And if a song starts with "girl," "baby," or has auto tune, it's probably bad. Yeah, they ought to brand the songs that have auto tune, so it's like this is auto tune. Well, their song "Baby Baby" by Amy Grant, I guess, began with the word "baby." Now that I think about it, so there you go. Couldn't think of one, but there it was. You look for an OG mono of Roy Orbison. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of his greatest hits that are mono, but not any OG of his original first releases that are mono. So that's how that song begins. Tracy Chapman's okay. Yeah, they're out there. Yeah, like I said, mine's just the fact the title beginning with the title is just the thing that kind of gets to me. So so if um so if today was the big Steely Dan announcement, any guesses on what the next Baby Baby Where Did Our Love Go? Yeah, Supremes, right? What anybody's guess on what the next big announcement's going to be? Second big announcement by Analog Productions for 2022 that Chad's got in his back pocket for the next month. I've heard a few theories. I mean, there's any theory is a good theory because it's all theory right now. I have my suspicions, but I don't know. I don't know. So, UHQR dark side. Or Zep, the Archies? Bang Shangalang. Oh my gosh. Two for Zeppelin. I am betting. I am betting that it will be in the rock genre, and the reason I say that is I think there has been a right or wrong ballot or not, a perception that he's leaned way too heavily on jazz and blues and soul, and that he hasn't done enough rock, and that you're getting into these core anniversaries for these big titles of big bands, rock bands. So that's what makes me think that. Okay. I mean, and when I say rock, I mean, rock pop, not jazz, not soul. I just don't feel in my heart it's going to be in that genre. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's easy, just start speculating, right? I don't know. Um, if I remember correctly, I think he has indicated that he doesn't have all of the plates for Zep from Classic. Yeah, Talking Heads would be a cool thing. I tend to not think that's it, but for some label, a rhino, you know, yeah, you're right. It has to sell well. There's no doubt. Recoup the licensing and production. You're right, and it's different audience, but hey, I'm I'm hazarding a guess, like anybody else. I mean, I'm hazarding a guess. I just sometimes comments are made and they're not made. How do I put it? To to answer this kind of question, but because they are made, they sometimes tell maybe a more overarching story that would affect this. And that's all I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be Elvis Costello. Uh, there's a lot of factors, obviously, in these decisions. The first factor is can they get the material or can they get the rights to it or the like, that's always the beginning. Um, all the rock people are going to be out of money, but at least they don't charge you until they ship it. So at least you got that. Then it will be classic rock. Splatter pressed box set, like all the others. Hmm. Chad doesn't strike me as a splatter kind of guy, but hey, you know, what do I know? That's just me. Whatever it is, it makes him grin from ear to ear. I know that. I can tell you that. That's that much is for sure. You know, and I think that I'll be most interested to find out if he's gotten his pressing capacity up to a third shift, because that I think is a goal he has for sure to get, because they're doing stuff for other people as well, and they really want to not have throughput as a factor in meeting any of these dates. But I can honestly say I've never seen more test pressings laying around in my life. That's for sure. My gosh. And they all got numbers on them. They got codes. So it's not like you can figure out what anything means. And even the guys in the plating area. I mean, they're like, it's got a number on it, and they go, I said, well, what is that? He says, I don't know. It's a blah blah blah. He says, special job for Chad. That's all I know. Yeah, so it's not like they don't even know what they got. So television marquee moon would sell. Really? Hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not here to disagree with you. I just that surprises me. That kind of jumps out of, I say, out of nowhere, but Talking Heads was a good suggestion somebody had. Yeah, I could see that. I could dig that. I think Tears for Fears would be. It wouldn't be huge, but I mean, number of discs, but it would be a good box set. A well done. I'd really like a well done Tears for Fears. Except I don't know. I don't know when they got into digital, or if they, when they got away from analog. That's the thing that really starts to cause the disconnects. It limits where you can go catalog wise, time wise. That's what starts to happen. You start saying, "Well, I don't, um, I don't think we can do that because the source is, starting off without being analog." Smith's albums, yeah, I could see where they might be popular. Yeah. Yeah, get GZ plans to make all the picture discs. Yeah, nobody's going to play them anyway. Yeah. When quality doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's a hell of a quality policy. Now here's a funny story. So I've done auditing of facilities and that, and so one company I went to as a consultant. Um, so one of the first things you typically ask people when you interview them, you'll say, "Well, what's your company's quality policy?" And so, first day of a 5-day audit, I go out to this guy in shipping, because I like to audit the process backwards from shipment of product back. Then I trace its manufacturing, I trace its raw materials, I trace the order, I trace the sourcing, I trace, so I just get some samples of some finished product that's getting ready to ship, because they're going to know it's going to go to the customer. So I go to this guy, nice enough guy. He just says, I says, "Hey, you got a minute?" Yeah. I said, I said, "Hey, what's the company quality policy? You know what the company quality policy is?" He looks around and he goes, "Well, I know what it says it is, but if you ask me, I think it's ship it no matter what." And I thought, really? Really? I'm sure that's not what it is. Why would you say that? He said, "Well, I get stuff and I know it's got a problem, and they go and they tell me, just don't worry about it. Just go ahead and ship it." He said, "So that's why I say that." So I had to tell Yeah, Supertramp would be great. I love Supertramp. That's another great one. But so I had to go tell the executive staff, of course, that this little encounter I had, and they're all, who the heck said that? Who was that? We want their name. We want their head, I think is what they really meant. And it's like, it doesn't matter because I saw like 12 examples today of non-conforming product you ship. So actually he was right. So maybe you should focus on what you're doing and not, who's saying it. So yeah, so companies can be weird like that, I guess. All right. So Supertramp, I would dig a Supertramp. Yeah, I definitely would dig a Supertramp. That's a great idea. Leonard Skinner, Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder, Velvet Underground, Journey. Whew. Wow. What turntable you have for radio? 301 fetch good money here. Okay. Well, I'm not in radio anymore. It was a long time ago. So um, I can't even say I remember what brand those were. Those were special for radio stations. I know that. Yeah, Stevie Wonder would be an interesting catalog, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, yeah, Motown generally, I guess, but they've really not been done on any kind of high end anything. Kinks, yeah, yeah, and I don't think any of the ones in that last group are ones that Grateful Dead. Oh, I don't know. Grateful Dead, MoFi has done. I don't know how many, but that's kind of they've been in that genre. So Gerard was German. Okay, yeah, Gerard. Yeah, yeah, I remember Gerard. That was a pretty popular brand. Dual is German, that's for sure. I use Dual a lot, not in radio, but just personally. But everybody has their favorites. Yeah, see, that's run TMC and those. See, that's where I talked to Chad about this about newer groups and why don't you press these or why aren't these kind of things selected? And first off, that's not my that he said that's not my style music. He says generally those are recorded digitally. I don't think I could bring that much to the table to make them sound a lot better, and I wouldn't be the best judge of that anyway. And it's just not in his wheelhouse. Now, he said if some other company wants to do them and they want to know how we do what we do, I'll show them how to make the sausage. Those were his words. He says, I'll be glad to help somebody understand how to make them well. He said, but that's just not in my wheelhouse. But he said, problem is, I've done that before. I've helped companies, tried to help companies. It's like, but then they want to take shortcuts. They want to do something cheaper. They want to, he said, and then they don't follow the process. They don't follow the advice, and they don't get the sausage. And then they wonder why they're not successful or they don't get the same outcome or whatever. And it's like, well, you know, you didn't make the sausage the way the recipe was. So that so wait, I got a 1245. You got a 1225. Okay. But so I mean he's just yeah, he's right up front about it. But MoFi could do more of those if they wanted. I think the Run DMCs sold pretty good if I remember right. I can't remember if they were digital. I'm assuming I'm pretty positive they were digital, uh, tape to digital, but that most of them in that time frame were. BB King, you live 40 miles from really? Oh, okay. Paul, that's cool. You can just go pick up your records. You don't need to. Uh, yeah, I mean, he's a relatively small operation in some ways, but yeah, it is interesting. And I mean, I'm the same way, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm I'm kind of, I mean, it's kind of like you like what you really like, and that's it. And for him, I think he has a certain qualitative evaluation of the way music sounds, at least to him, and that's really critical to reproduce that. And I think he hears a lot of things kind of mushed together, or kind of, it doesn't really sound as clean or as distinctive in some of this stuff. A lot of artificial digitized stuff, and then of course the recording itself, and it's just not in his wheelhouse. And to be honest, not you can't be all things to all people, and you need to define not just who you are, but who you aren't. And the market's big, the opportunities are there. Young entrepreneurs, there's a lot of rich younger folks that could get into doing something like this, and they'd be damn good at it. So I think that opportunity is there. Chad or anybody else can't bear the weight of all of those expectations. Um, that's just the way it is. The thing is, audiophile labels tend to kind of stay in circles that are a little more, the analog nature. Now, MoFi's kind of opened the door pretty big on that, and they may be, the best alternative to move toward. So, with the capacity they're going to be gaining, I would think that might be a possibility. But I don't know how one gets input into their uh, what they look at or what they consider. I mean, I know that the only label I know that really overtly requests input is Speaker's Corner. And I can tell you from personal experience, if you request, they will respond. They definitely will respond. So whether they can do anything about it or not is a secondary thing. I mean, there's a lot of those things aren't what you'd like to have, and what's possible to do could be two different things. I'll write a letter to MoFi. Just use a lawyer's letterhead and it'll get opened. Go for that at least. I don't know. Well, I'm not going to speak to how much he's worth, Romero, but he was a troubled teen, and he was had drug and alcohol issues, and he was sent for rehab to Salina, where they had a rehab place from he was in Louisiana, and he worked on cleaning up his life and realized that he could buy records cheap back in the 90s when vinyl was not in vogue, and resell them. He did research. He found people who were interested in him. He started selling out of his house. He started buying so many records he didn't have room in his place anymore. He had records in the bathtub, and he had to move into a house, and he got a couple other people to help selling them. They sell them, and started a business selling records. And that is how kind of Acoustic Sounds as a sales retail arm had started. And Analog Productions is kind of like the piece that is arranging for records to be reissued. And so that he started that as an offshoot, and at first exclusively selling through Acoustic Sounds, and then beyond that. And then QRP is a pressing plant, Quality Records Pressings, that he started to be able to actually press his own records instead of having to count on RTI or whomever else. So he's a self-made man. I'm sure he's a millionaire. I don't have much doubt about that. It's a great story, actually. And if you go to my channel, Sound of Safe and Sound Texas, I have several interviews with him, and I have an overview on that, so a little more detail. But anyway, that's kind of his story. He's the real deal. I mean, he's about as straight a shooter as you're ever gonna see. When he screws up, he admits it. When something isn't right, he takes care of it, and he goes over and above. And he his people love him. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They take a bullet for him. His people, and he's good to his people. He recognizes that his success is largely dependent on those people, and that's the best kind of leader you can ever have. So those things, they evolve over time through a natural process. His people talk about customer always. Everything they kind of talk about with their role is how it relates to the customer. And this is not, how do I put it? Not staged. It's not, reading anything off a sign. It's just like, tell me what you do. And when they tell you what they do, whatever they say it in the context of how it's going to affect the customer. And that you don't see a lot, frankly. So anyhow, um, Smith's probably too prolonged with Morrissey's statements. Yeah, well, um, yeah, Talking Heads. I'm liking that one. The more and more I think about it. I mean, Stop Making Sense. Such a good. I'm not big into live albums, but that is such a good live album. Such a good live video. Oh my gosh. To me, it sounds like it's in a studio. I mean, it's really great. Radiohead. Yeah, that would be interesting. I just don't know what the market is, to be honest with you. Yeah, he was with RTI, and then let me just put it simply. Chad is a man who wants to control his own destiny. That is the simplest way to encapsulate how he operates. And so by creating a plant and creating the plating process and, the thing like redesigning the boxes and controlling his warehouse. I mean, all of these things, the only thing he has done is the covers, the stout covers. So it's the only thing he has done out. Everything else he manages and controls. So, he gonna fly or die on his own. And so that's really where he's at. And that really is refreshing to me, because me having been in manufacturing, I have watched decades of outsourcing happen and decades of control lost and consequences. And I've watched people in accounting and people in purchasing all get pats on the back for the supposedly great things they've done. And then a year or two later, you realize what they did really hurt the company, but they all have gotten their bonuses, and now you're trying to rebuild stuff because of it. So it's like, don't get me started on that. So he's trying to control as much as he can. And that's a smart man. Now, is it the cheapest way to do it? Probably not. But there's costs and there's investments, right? He's investing in his business to be high quality, high yield, great customer service, all of these things. He's doing that. Uh, and it's like the thing with the stickers. I think I did have that video come out where they put the round sticker for analog on the Steely Dan 2 Against Nature. And Ron Beaudry, who has a channel, called him on it and said, "Hey, there's a digital step in the mix of this." And Chad read that. He acknowledged it to him online, and they pulled 3,000 pieces out of the warehouse. And what they didn't do, they didn't just tear that sticker off. They pulled those out of the bag, threw those bags out, and rebagged it without the sticker. So a couple $1,000 probably worth of time and labor, right? But that was the right thing to do. So again, character is what you do when people aren't watching, and he knows that what he does, matters in small ways that become big issues if you don't resolve them, right? So, and this is my commentary, not anything I'm saying this. This is David Bianco. This is the kind of thing that didn't exist in MoFi, to be straight up with people and say, here's how we're doing things. We believe in it. Here's why. This is a better product. And you all have admitted and said that. And so this is what we're doing because of these reasons. And this is the output. And we want you to understand that's the journey we're taking ourselves on, because we can't get tapes from these companies and we have these other issues, and this is going to preserve it for the future. They could have made a great case, but instead, obfuscation and not answering questions, giving incorrect information, that's what they did. And, that's just, something you have to live with. So Chad you watch the video from today that Chad put up. He tries to explain in great detail which had a copy. Gaucho had a copy, and this one was a Dolby B copy. I mean, he gives exact answers to these, and he knows them inside out. He's not like, oh, I'm going to have to go look and reference. I don't, he knows exactly what he's got and what if any anomalies are there. So I don't know what else you can ask for. So sorry for the long-winded answer. I apologize. But when I see a guy with passion, I kind of get passionate about it. The 12 is 10 for 10 minutes. Oh, okay. I'll have to check those out. Amnesiac Radio. Okay. So I'm learning some stuff here. Cool. I like that. Yeah, Radiohead wasn't one that, I've heard a few things from them, but not one that I followed very much. Smoking album. Yeah. Isn't that the one? Hot and Nasty, I think, is the name of the song off of Humble Pie Smoking, if I'm not incorrect. I think I remember a song called Hot and Nasty. I remember my mother heard me playing that song, and it was not a pleasant conversation after that. I didn't know what the hell it meant, but I think she did. Investments that pay off again and again. Yeah. Yeah. I just, the guy, just does what he does. He took time for me, who's nobody, he took time for me, and he knew my interest in manufacturing and what I said about his company and what things I, understood about it. And I think he respected the fact that someone appreciated what it takes to do manufacturing, because a lot of people don't. And so we kind of had a connection, in that regard. But he treated me like, I was an old Army buddy, and I'm sure if you went there, he'd treat you just as well, just so you could work for Chad. Yeah. The industry needs more. The world needs more people like Chad. Business needs more people like Chad, no doubt. You know, and yeah, yeah. He said, he said in his video today something like, kind of like childhood dream, about it. And I'm thinking, well, I wasn't dreaming about making UHQRs when I was a kid, but I know what he means about the dream of, really doing something of high caliber that relates to something that you're passionate about. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, attention to detail. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. Um, he knows he knows everything that's going on in that business. I mean, upside down, inside out. I saw it in so many ways. When you've been in business, around companies 45 years, and you see people. This is a true entrepreneur. Knows his business, knows his people, trusts his people to do the right thing, and when he hears the word quality, when there's something around quality, you can tell that he perks up in the sense that he gives that his undivided attention, because he sees that as his core competence, that the thing he brings to the table on a repetitive basis. And he takes no glee in the fact that another company is having a problem. It's not good for anybody from just from an image standpoint of record making, right? I mean, it's not. Uh, and when he says he was truly surprised by what he learned, I I think he didn't know anything. I think that everybody started to have suspicions because of the one step process, and the fact that with the one step you don't have the mother and the father, so you got to have these lacquers, uh, new lacquers for every 1,000 or so stampers that are made, which is where the math gets problematic. Whereas when he's using the mother and the father, he just creates new stampers out of the mothers, and if something were to happen to mother, the father, he can make a new mother out of the father. So you don't have any of that kind of stuff. I've seen a lot of posts where people are going, wait a minute, if Chad's doing 25,000 of Asia or whatever, how can he do that if he's going to run that tape? And I'm like, wait, we're mixing apples and oranges. He's not doing a one step. He uses this traditional mother father stamper process there. So Jack White opening night. Okay, will do. It's like Michael 45 kidding. Michael 45 has a unique delivery style, I would say. Uh, he has this ability to, he looks off into the distance, and it's almost like he's thinking when he's talking, and he reflection, and it's really, really a different kind of style. Uh, is that how Chad cusses mother? Um, Chad can cuss with the best of them. I will say that for you. There's no doubt about that. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I just I think what's really interesting is, I think as he has progressed in the what he's making, and the product, and the stature of the product, and I think all of this is elevating. I think he's starting to really contemplate now the importance, the magnitude of what he's doing. I think I don't know how to put it. That's just my reflection, that I just think he's really starting to um, put it into perspective, because he's like, he's got kind of booked for almost 10 years. It's like, he knows what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing for the next 10 minutes, but he's like, and so I think he's just finally really, I think this Steely Dan thing, I think really was just kind of another level, kind of on the rung, so to speak. And I think that's what he's experiencing now in these other things that he's working on. He's just, you know, moving up the rungs in terms of that. And in that regard, I think the other situation with MoFi has, kind of created some, I don't know, say pressure, but it's created opportunity. It's created a, that they're kind of standing out there as one of the premier uh, people out there, as they have been. But now it's kind of like, when the other guy has a few black eyes, then they don't always look as quite as good at the moment as the best fighter in the arena, so to speak. So I think that that's part of what's happening. Um, when should we be expecting it? Well, God, I wish I knew I could tell you. I don't want to speak for him. I'm going to say um, probably about the time the first release comes out of Can't Buy a Thrill, be early November, I think, is what I think. That's what I'm just estimating, just from a timing standpoint, because I know he's got, he's got some things to work through with this next situation. And anyway, that's kind of generally what I would guess. I say 30 to 60 days, but probably closer to 60 than 30, but I don't know. Um, I think it's just there's a, a lot of balls in the air. I guess I'll just put it that way. There's a lot of balls in the air, and Chad's trying to catch them all, not have anything at loss. Well, to be honest with you, Jason, I read you there, but I also will tell you that if there's something that Chad loves, and he knows his customers will love it, and I'm just throwing, he knows he can only do 7,500 of them or whatever. I think he's gonna do it. I mean, I don't think it's purely about the numbers. I mean, certain artists and certain magnitudes bring you up to that kind of number because of the scope of it. Steely Dan hadn't had the catalog redone, hadn't, I mean, it's a whole different thing. Other stuff that he's done has been done. And so I mean it's different. So I think not every release has to be a put him on the map kind of release. I don't think that at all, to be honest with you. Uh, I just think that um, the opportunities he has, I think, are going to be more reflective of um, a richer opportunity catalog, or a richer base to work from, or um, you know. Sometimes when you're in that role, I think you're looking for the next release, the next thing, and you're searching out things. I think with what's happened and everything, I think sometimes now there are some reversals where people are coming to them now. And that obviously, if the skids are greased a little bit, and you don't have to fight uphill on some of that, that's going to make it easier. So that's kind of what I mean by it. I don't just mean a raw volume type thing or anything, but you can bank one thing, and that is if Chad likes the material and he has an opportunity to do it, he's going to do it. If he doesn't like the material, there's a good chance he's not going to do it. It's really simple. And I said that to someone, and they said, "Well, that's awful." And I'm thinking, well, it's his company, and if I had a company and I had a chance to do what I wanted to do or not do what I don't want to do, what would you do? I mean, come on, and it just doesn't make sense. Um, so Chad is dangerous for my wallet. Amen. Amen. I mean, he was in my back pocket and I didn't even realize it that day. I mean, because today the ponies came home to roost, because today, yeah, he is the wallet trap. Yeah, it's like, yeah, yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, Fagan had to, yeah. I mean, there was some, yeah, big level people involved in this thing. This was, this was no small deal. I mean, it was, yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, uh, and I think and I put it, feels the weight of that. He knows, what he's got in hand, but he has a lot of right confidence in his what's going on, and the people that he has, they'll, like I said, they'll take a bullet for him, I think, and that's what you got to have when you're in that kind of business. You got to have the people. Otherwise, you got the best technology in the world, but if you don't have the people, you're nowhere. Yeah, I ordered 3 right now. I did Can't Buy a Thrill, Asia, and Gaucho. Um, and I may add to that. I may add to that. You can add to it, by the way, and it won't affect your shipping if you add to it by phone, before the first one ships, by the way, just in case. Same 3. Wow. Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who knows how long? I don't know. I'm going to be very interested to find out how the sales are going, because yeah, it's some big numbers, but there's a pent up demand here. I mean, it's just, and I know a lot of people wanted a different, they wanted a standard pressing and 33, and they want, and it's like y- y- you were already charged fully, really, Ramiro. Are you in the United States, Ramiro? I'm just kind of curious why that might have happened that way. I thought, yeah, okay. All right, but yeah, and I'm not here to speak to their accounting methods because I don't honestly know. I was told by someone else that no, I was told by them. I take that back. I talked to them this afternoon. They said you won't be charged until they shipped. Yeah, okay. You're in Ohio. Well, I guess that counts anyway. I lived in Ohio for a while, quite a few years actually. But um, yeah, that seems odd. Yeah, that does seem odd. Yeah, I don't know. You might call them and ask them. I don't know. That okay. Uh, whether they charge me or not, I'm going to pay for them. I guess my money's worth more today than it will be later if inflation continues. So I'd rather they wait. But okay, well that's good. I'd hate to think if you were could be a test charge. Yeah, well that's different. Yeah, that could be a yeah. Yeah, that they do that sometimes to validate your limits and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. They were pretty clear on the phone to me. The charges that go, and then the shipping will be incurred with the first payment. So let's say you ship and you bought, I don't know, X amount, and the shipping was 13 whatever 97. Then the 13.97 would be applied to the first one, but then you wouldn't be charged shipping on the subsequent ones. Now, sales tax is different. You'd be charged sales tax, but if that's your state, they charge sales tax. So um, it's they have room for financially. I've got to. I think I've got to go get one of these nights because I thought I had pre-ordered it, and then I looked and I realized, yeah, I didn't. It wasn't on the pre-order when I was pre-ordering for some reason. I don't know why it wasn't at that time because I have a screenshot of it. So room. Oh, physically. Well, I'll make room. I mean, no, I've got. Yeah, I don't know if I've got room. I've got records laying on the floor, so but I'm gonna have a a bit of a sale to, to lean out a bit. I think I'm going to do that just because I need to. I'll hold them if you don't have. See, you guys are so helpful. Yeah, you'll even test play them for them. I know. You have no floor left. Yeah, I know. It's a tripping hazard here. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm excited to get Can't Buy a Thrill. Which proves that you can buy a thrill, I guess. Actually, uh, the only problem I'm going to have is I got to teach myself, when to get up now because I'm used to not getting up until after the fifth song. So definitely going to have to be trained a bit. But now, well, of course, when Chad told me that he had an apartment that was so full that he had records in his bathtub, I said, "You were probably a little difficult to be around at that point." That's what I was thinking. And it's not like Salina has a big YMCA or anything. So I was thinking, boy, you've overdone it when you can't get in your tub. So that's good. Well, guys, what do we got here? 12th. Oh, my goodness gracious. I've done it again. I'm like the car pro, the guys that did the car talk. Oh, you've done it again. You've wasted another hour. Don't drive like my brother. Oh, I missed that show. That was hilarious. I really did. I do miss that show. I'm looking for reasonably priced. We got requests 2x40. Oh, I see. Hmm. Well, I'm sure that those are out there. Novus Nick, I bet they are, but Discogs, like I said earlier, a little wary. I've tried, but I've come close, but I just have never pulled the trigger on a Discogs order yet. Just a little bit wary. So, I've got a couple of videos I'm hopefully going to release early next week. Hopefully, one of them will be the manufacturing discussion from my visit with Chad, because that wasn't an interview. That was a walkthrough and my impressions of it. So, that one I hope to release. Let's see, I did both of the interviews. Boy, I got one other one that I've started. Got a couple that I just need to clean up and finish. So I've got a surprise coming for, I think, the 26th, 25th. So it'll be a week. So, yeah, I'm trying to arrange. I will have an interview with the president of Speaker's Corner in later October. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. And so got some angles I want to talk to him about related to the way they fit into the market and get a little more in depth on what are the biggest future milestones that relate to whether or not there's going to be an easing off of the ability to get master tapes, or what they have an issue because they're in Germany, so they have an additional situation that if the label has a Germany storage, then they are in good shape with some labels and not others. So, wow, quick spec. I just saw what you were saying there about Discogs. That's good. Yeah, for me, guys, it's only the issue of if I order a pressing and it has a certain dead wax or whatever, I want it to be whatever I ordered. I don't want it to be, Yeah, it looks like the same cover, but the record that's in it, has no correlation whatsoever. That's the thing I worry about. And as Michael 45 had a video on OGs, getting in, if you really are you really getting OG? Um, those can be problematic. And um, I had someone who said they had a sealed record. I said, "This is an OG," and I said, "How do you know? You can't open it. You didn't open it. You don't know what's in the. You don't know what's on the dead wax on it. You don't. Whatever you can go by, it's got to be on the cover. And unless there's some, really super unique, this only came out with this on the cover and this pressing in the. I don't know how you know. Seal records are a real crapshoot for sure. I like the fact they're sealed, but they could be warped. They could be, problematic. So I don't want to spend money on something at a premium when in fact I don't know what's under the kimono. Some people say, well, I'll buy it if you open it and I can see the condition of it. And then, but at that point their risk is if it's a problem, then they can't sell it at all. And if they left it sealed, they could sell it. And, I don't know. It's sealed records have their own issues. I'd say if you can't tell what you got, then the odds are it isn't what you think it is generally. So I want them to put on label pressed at like before. Oh, okay, where they would indicate where it was pressed at. Okay, I got you. Yeah. hmm. It comes with a sticker that says OG. Okay, yeah, of course. And back then, OG meant nothing. So now it. Yeah, I was at a show the other day and they had a store that I'd bought from before, and I'd bought a press and it said Holland press or something, and then you opened it up, it was a French press. And so I went over there and pulled a couple, and I'll be dang, similar kind of mix-ups, and I'm like, you really ought to look at these and put the right sticker on before you. Oh, I don't know how that happened. I'm like, it happened the same way it did 3 years ago when I bought from you before. I don't know. It's like you just pick whatever foreign countries on the next sticker and you throw it on there. Yeah. I use a French press. I knew there had to be. I do a French press every day, like 5 of them. No, it's a whole different thing. Yeah. Yeah, doing it local, looking at it. Yeah, that's the thing. Putting it on a table so you can see if it's warped. Yeah, I do that. That's smart to do. Yeah, I wish that would be a rating, that you could give a record, on flatness. I've always said that should be a way to grade flatness of a record. But who am I? I'm no gold mine. Well, gang, I'll tell you what, it has been wonderful to chat with you as usual. And I thank the 22 of you and the 14 likes for doing that. And appreciate your support as always. And again, if you have any questions, my email is sound@safeandsoundtexas.com, fully spelled out, sound@safeandsoundtexas.com. It's deja vu again. Yeah, that's what she said. All right, gang. Well, y'all take care. Thank you for joining, no matter what side of the globe you are. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time on the Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. Take care. Bye bye.